Okay, good morning, Commissioner Ed Rothstein. It is Thursday, April 20th. We had a very vibrant and successful work session this past Tuesday. We are now into the TED Roadshow starting with the budget and then the public's opportunity to come back to us in early May to share their thoughts, and then we finalize the budget. So really appreciate my colleagues' selflessness and focus on our community, our county. Before we start our open session, as always, let's stand for a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I think we have a handful of things for Priority Carol, but let's start to my right and the community's left, I would imagine. Commissioner Garin, what's in your mind?
Thank you, Commissioner Rothstein, and good morning, Carroll County. As maybe a lot of people watching aren't aware, but as commissioners, we do spend our Tuesdays and usually Tuesdays and Thursdays before you. But when we're not here, we are out and sitting on commissions and meeting with our constituents. And that takes up a lot of time, and I'm not complaining, but it's a very important part of what we do. And I've mentioned before that I, like my fellow commissioners, I serve on a couple commissions and councils, and one of them is the Emergency Services Advisory Council. We had our meeting last night, and as usual, Chief Robinson updated the Advisory Council on the progress of the transition to this hybrid county workforce, if you will, to help staff we actually have 14 stations to staff 13 of them. And it's going quite well. It's probably why most folks in the county haven't heard much about it, because it is going well. And when things are going well, you tend not to hear about them. Not to say that it's not having a major impact on our fire stations and our departments and as individual corporations. And as commissioners, we're very sensitive to that fact. So I wanted to give a quick update that by June, by the 8th of June specifically, we will have our county firefighters and EMS folks in the Westminster, Sykesville, and Tawnytown stations. And by the early July, it looks like we are on track to have the same contingent of county employees, county fire and EMS folks at the Mount Airy, Reese, and Manchester stations. So there's a lot that goes behind those numbers. It's been a very long and challenging hiring process. We've adjusted it as we've needed to be, as it's needed to be adjusted. But I want to commend Chief Michael Robinson, on his command and leadership of the Department of Fire and EMS. He has done a fantastic job, and this Board of Commissioners supports him wholeheartedly. We also appreciate the extra effort and time that has gone into this hiring process. No hiring process is perfect, and the county residents need to understand where we've seen room for improvement, the county has actually made adjustments to include retesting of individuals. Two of the smartest hires this county's probably made in the past couple years was Michael Robinson to be our chief and Christy Bixler to run our HR department. And those two are working hand in hand, doing a fantastic job along with our county staff and our county administrator to make this happen. We're a relatively new board. The previous board made a lot of decisions regarding the transition, and they made right decisions, and we're carrying through on that. But again, I just thought it was important to take this opportunity to show our support for the great work that they're doing, and I promise to keep everybody updated. So thanks.
Thanks, and great timing, very, very well said. So appreciate it. Commissioner Gordon.
Thank you. Friday evening, I attended the Battle of the Books held at Westminster High School. Sincere thank you to Carroll County Public Schools and the Carroll County Library for their partnership for this wonderful program. It was wonderful to see so many sponsors involved with this event to help make it possible, and it was an exciting evening for all the kids, and it was great to see their passion in reading. Monday, myself, Commissioner Rothstein, Kyler, and Vigliotti attended a meeting at the Legion Post 31. I'm going to hold off on that and let one of them speak to that. Also on Monday, I attended the Magix ribbon cutting for the Autonomous Robotics Innovation Center. That is going to be a fascinating educational center that Magic has set up to work within the Westminster community, but all of Carroll County to interact with STEM and other robotics programs. So it'll be interesting, and looking forward to seeing what all they accomplish in the coming years. Tuesday, obviously, as everyone knows, we had budget in the afternoon, but in the morning I was busy attending the planning and zoning meeting Tuesday morning. And then yesterday morning I had a meeting with President Jaskins from McDaniel College, my alma mater. And then yesterday evening I attended Superintendent McCabe's town hall for Blueprint, and it was a good turnout last night at that meeting. I appreciate Superintendent McCabe's comments on a variety of the topics, and I think this board has done a good job of working collectively between the Board of Education and ourselves to try to do what's best for not only education but Carroll County as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you again. Very well said. Commissioner Kyler. We're 2 for 2. Don't mess this up.
Yeah, I'm trying. I want to start out, I love Carroll County, and I even love our budget sessions. I love everything about Carroll County.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're 2 and 1.
And I don't know how much people see of it. We've had some very good conversations. We don't all agree. I don't think anyone here got a positive vote for every one of their
Correct.
wishes. It's definitely a give and take, and it's interesting. My week, we've been working on the budget. I went to the Tonytown Business Breakfast, and Commissioner Rothstein still has not congratulated me for winning $75 there, but I know
That will not happen.
I know he will. And the Battle of the Books, as you said, Commissioner Gordon, it's just awesome. And it's great to see those kids working as teams. They have a recorder in each group, and they all work as a team. They're competitive. They all wanted to win, but every last one of them have fun. And one of the things that it's interesting, each team has a coach. And the coach is not allowed to be with them that night. The coach is proctoring another group to make sure they do everything correct. And it was funny to watch some of the coaches kind of trying to peek up and see how their group's doing while they're watching another group. So just a great night, a bunch of photos, and I'm sure Chris Swam's going to get some nice photos of all of us at the event, and that's great. We did have the meeting with Lieutenant Governor Miller and Secretary Woods, and I'm sure you're going to talk about that a little more. The one thing I'd like to mention, it's so great to see so many groups there, that the room was full. There wasn't time, as there normally isn't, for everybody to probably talk to her, but she came doing her homework, knew a lot about Carroll County, and cares. You know, sometimes we feel like Annapolis neglects us a little bit. She does not, and Secretary Woods does not. We are very lucky with them doing that, and we haven't talked about this, but I'd like to call her bluff and us go visit her in her
Sounds like a
Lieutenant
plan.
Governor's office. I'd really like to see that happen. We visited Random House, and that was great. And it's amazing what they do in that building. And maybe you'll mention more about it. To me, comic books are comic books, but that's not true, evidently. It's amazing how they double box so they don't bend any of the corners. They have quality control.
if one looks a little too wavy, it doesn't go out. So evidently comic books aren't just comic books. We did the work zone awareness. That was awesome out at the maintenance facility, and great talk. And of course, the timing with the accident that happened on the Beltway makes it even more heartfelt. We need to care about our workers, and I'm as bad as anybody. I've been on 95 behind a barricade, sometimes not behind a barricade, but I still drive above the speed limit and go past them like they're not even there, and that has consequences. We all need to be aware. Because of the budget, I missed Veterans Advisory Committee. I apologize to that group, but we got to do what we got to do, and I hate missing that event. That's another meeting that is a lot of input from a lot of the community about the veterans, and I'm sorry I missed it. I was at the community college last night for their trustees meeting, and that was great as always. And they're going through some pains with Blueprint, but I think also the legislation this time was a little more friendly to colleges and community colleges than they have been to the K through 12 schools. So I hope they benefited a little bit by it, and their enrollment's up, but it's tough because of concurrent enrollment. And then we talked a little bit last night. I know some of the homeschoolers, they're worried that they'll get lost in the shuffle, and but I think they're attractive students to the community college. I don't think that's going to happen. This weekend there's a couple fire company events, and I've been trying to get to as many of those as I can, and what a great group of people. Commissioner Garrett mentioned Chief Robinson and what all he's doing. We have truly a hybrid situation. We have paid people that the county's in the process of hiring. We have paid people that the fire companies have paid. We have potentially, we're going to put one of our ambulances in their building and tell them how it ought to be stored. It's a lot of communication going on between volunteers, the fire chiefs, the presidents, and the paid people. And there's always going to be a couple hiccups, but they're really being addressed. And I think that's a great group. I've mentioned this before here. I'm amazed when I go to some of their events. So many of the nonprofits, so many of the civic groups are really struggling to attract younger people to get committed and work hard for them. The fire companies seem to be doing that pretty well, and I applaud them for that. There's been a lot of legislative updates, and I just want to mention one thing. I think we got an email questioning how do we tell how do we decide for our meetings what gets reviewed? And I think there's a couple answers to that question. In our meeting, there's only so much time to really talk about bills, but we talk during session almost every day and get updates. So even if something didn't get mentioned at a meeting, it doesn't mean we didn't think it was important. It doesn't mean it hasn't already been talked about. And again, lastly, and I've told people, feel free to reach out. You have my cell phone number, you have my email address, and please reach out, negative or positive, and I'll try to get back to you. There's some, particularly when you send a message to all of us, you may not get a response from all of us, and you need to understand that. Again, we talk about that, and if somebody's doing a response, we don't want to all jump on it. So sometimes you won't get from everybody you send it to, but hopefully you are getting responses. And again, I love Carroll County.
Okay. Thank you. And Commissioner Vigliotti.
Thank you, Commissioner Rothstein. Well, the nice thing about going last is it certainly diminishes what you need to be able to talk about. So to begin, I will echo and associate myself with Commissioner Guerin's comments about the transition, about the Department of Fire EMS, about Christy Bixler, about Chief Robinson, and I will also echo the same comments as Commissioner Kyler as well. I also had the privilege last week of attending the business breakfast, and I guess Commissioner Kyler, I don't know, do you want a motion about the congratulations on the $75?
Absolutely not.
I don't think it would pass.
Well, at least you'd get a second from me. I also had the honor of attending the worker safety ceremony this week. I also want to express my thanks to the members of this board and to everybody in budgeting and everyone beyond who has been involved in the budgeting process. It's not an easy process. I also want to commend my fellow commissioners for their sense of professionalism and their dedication to pursuing the budget. I mean, we had to make a lot of very difficult choices this year, and those choices are only going to become more difficult as time goes on with all of the things that we are faced with. There's a gentleman that we spoke to, Commissioner Gordon and I spoke to earlier this week, and as a matter of politesse, I'll exclude myself from the compliments that he wanted to have passed along, but he thought it was really telling that all of us were able to see beyond ourselves and our own personal opinions on things to work together for the betterment and the good of the county as a whole. And the fact that the members of this board are able to see beyond certain particular confines to see what the future holds, to see how certain things are going to affect everybody, whether or not we disagree with something or else. I think it's certainly telling of the commitment of the board. But again, I exclude myself from that compliment as a matter of politesse. Let's see. I also had the privilege of attending the veterans meeting earlier this week with the Lieutenant Governor and Secretary Woods, and I also want to echo Commissioner Kyler's thank you as well. I mean, we, as he noted, we often feel like we are forgotten, but that certainly was not the case with the Lieutenant Governor and the Secretary. They've both been very attentive to our county, and especially to our veterans, and for that I'm especially grateful. And I'll let Commissioner Rothstein speak at greater length about that. Two final things. I had the opportunity to attend the seasonal grand reopening of the Tawnytown History Museum on Sunday, and their seasonal exhibits this year focus on local farming. There are a number of really fascinating inventions that were created locally that they have on display there. For example, there is a hog oiler. And what this is a machine that was developed here in Carroll County to help hogs get rid of lice. And so when they scratch themselves against it, it's this kind of like metal pole, and it has this sort of spiral element going up the side of it. And there's a box on top that distributes oil down the length of this pole. So when the hog scratches himself on the pole, the oil rubs off onto the hog and kills the lice. And it was a problem that farmers were contending with for years, trying to figure out how to approach it. And somebody here in Carroll County figured out an early solution to it. And then finally, the last thing I'll say is to anybody who is interested, we have municipal elections that are coming up. And these are incredibly important because the day-to-day operations that occur in the towns and the municipalities in our county depend on mayors and city council members. And it's incredibly important to pay attention to the local elections as well, because and even though we are a board of commissioners, I look at us as a local board as well. We are local elected officials. And the reason why this is so important is for the sake of networking and working across different jurisdictions, because we are all fellow elected officials representing a general public, but also because, being that we are closer to the public, we are more responsive, and we're able to take into account, certain concerns and conditions that may not, perforate at the state level. And then the other aspect of it is that, we have the ability to carry our citizens' concerns onto the state level in a way that, an individual citizen may not have the opportunity to do. And so it's incredibly important that residents, citizens pay attention to the municipal elections and who they put into those offices. Because again, these are going to be the local elected officials that are affecting you on a daily basis, and they are just as important as who you vote for president or governor. And that's it from me for today. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, and a lot had been shared. I'm going to try to keep this relatively brief. In the military, when you go into a long weekend, you always start with a safety message, and the safety message is, when do you know when you're in Carroll County? There's a lot of farm vehicles out there. A lot of farm vehicles out there on state highways, 26, 32, 97, 27, 30. They're out there. Be careful. do not go around them on double yellow lines. One, that's illegal, and two, that's just downright stupid. So take a little bit of patience and allow these vehicles to do what they need to do in the safest manner possible. That's my 2-cent advice on that one. The Lieutenant Governor's visit really, I felt, was very fruitful. When they said they were coming to Carroll County, I reached out to the Secretary's office. I said, okay, why are they coming? And he said, well, I was going to call you and ask the same. Keep that photo right there. Thanks, Chris. And so he didn't know. So we found out what the Lieutenant Governor and the administration wants to do is find out why Carroll County is the best at what we're doing in taking care of our community and our veterans community. The reason I'm saying keep it there is because you have Deputy Secretary Bob Finn, who is a Carroll County resident, Secretary Woods, the Lieutenant Governor, myself, and Senator Reedy. What this demonstrates is the legislative from our state, and really appreciate District 5 and Senator Reedy in attendance, and the team working together. What you don't see is the 30 or 40 folks that we're addressing is the community, because we don't have the answers from this table. We have the answers from what the community needs are. And I thought, well, the hour went very, very quick, and she did have a hard stop. Probably took her about 15 minutes to get out of there, but it was just very appreciative. And I'll tell you, it's regardless of parties and all this other stuff. It's about commitment to the community. And her, and I think we've met with Secretary Woods 3 times now in a very short amount of time. Their commitment to the community is just, and our veterans community is awesome. And I told them that. I said, it's wonderful. The workforce awareness was very important to get out there and speak with the folks. They're there. I think yesterday was Wear Orange Day. I think there's supposed to be a moment of silence. Don't let it be a fleeting moment. Focus on those that are out there putting themselves in harm's way on the roads without even knowing it. And the dad and son, and always wear your work shoes, not toeless shoes. And those, if you can't see, those toes were turning purple because it was getting a little cold. So I can't remember her name, but I said I was going to do that. But those were that was Cliff's boot at least. The father-son that were tragically killed from Union Bridge. Strength and courage to their families, and let their memories always be a blessing. We mentioned Battle of the Books. Each community had it. I had 400 kids on the Jim Floyd Century, and it was loud, and it was a lot of fun. We talked about Random House and all the other things. The last thing is Main Streets. There's a lot of Main Street activities that are starting to happen in the spring and summer. Shop local and take advantage of the opportunities that our Main Streets, which really are second to none, provide. And let's leave it at that for now and move right into purchasing of commercial washers and dryers.
Doesn't get more
Now, this
exciting.
isn't for wash and dry at your house, is it? No. Okay. Just checking.
Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Commissioners.
The Office of Procurement, in cooperation with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, is requesting your approval to award the purchase of 2 each Hibbage commercial washers and dryers for the detention center to Laundry Equipment Services at a cost of $44,267.48. This cost includes installation, removal of the old equipment, and freight. And a request for letters of interest was posted on public purchase along with the detention center soliciting quotes. A total of 5 quotes were received. This amount is approved within the FY23 budget. No additional funds should be required. And I will let Vicki talk about the washers and dryers.
So good morning, Commissioners. These are the large commercial washers and dryers that are used heavily every day in the detention center. And this is part of our overall replacement schedule for all of that equipment that's commercial in the detention center. So it's at that point where it needs to be replaced. So they're just the really large, 2 of each, yes, not that go in your house.
Okay.
If there's any other questions?
Any questions?
Very competitive bids.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what kind of stands out, is the
Yes.
competitive bids, 1 through 4 at least. So,
Motion to approve the purchase of 2 each commercial washers and dryers to Laundry Equipment Services in the amount of $44,267.48.
Second.
I got a motion, a couple seconds to my right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the FY24 Homelessness Solutions Program Grant. Application and acceptance of the award. Ladies. And,
Good morning.
again, Celine, pass my appreciation to your team in preparation for the Lieutenant Governor visit and discussion. That, I think,
Certainly.
highlighted a lot, so please.
Yes.
Okay?
I certainly will.
Thank you very much.
That's great. I'm Celine Steckel, the Director of Citizen Services. Today I'm joined by Danielle Yates, our Bureau Chief for Housing and Community Development, and also Corey Harding, our grants analyst from the grants office with the county. We're here before you this morning seeking approval to submit the FY24 Homelessness Solutions Program grant application and accept the award. The Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development provides annual state and federal funding for homeless services. Funding is available for FY24, and that funding also includes a competitive portion of funding that was awarded when we applied in FY23 as well. It continued on. As the grantee, we subgrant funding to our homeless service provider, HSP, Human Services Programs of Carroll County. And also Citizen Services is proposing to continue our own housing stability coordination program and our homeless prevention services. Some of the funding that is supported through this grant is identified in the budget below. And I want to walk through that so you understand what we're serving with that. In FY22, we served 517 individuals that were experiencing homelessness in Carroll County through various homeless solutions that we offer, in part with this funding. This funding does not identify all of the funding that comes through that we provide for homeless supports and housing options throughout the county. So some of the funding is designated for our adult only and our night-by-night shelter. And the county match dollars that you see on this budget are part of HSP's and our annual budget for nonprofits, their operating budget money that's provided through your budget process each year. So that is already part of their allocation. This is not in addition to the amount they requested. So to date in FY23, at our adult and night-by-night shelter and our family shelter, we have served 253 people. Last year in FY22, we served a total of 339 folks in that shelter. This funding also supports our adult and family rapid rehousing program, and which is stipends for the rental, and then also our staffing that supports them and HSP staffing that supports them. Last year, we served a total of 92 individuals in that program, and to date this year, in FY23, we have served 78 folks. There is also a match for shelter administration through this process. We also have our homelessness prevention program, and Danielle's going to speak a little bit to what that means, which is a very important program that was really instituted during the COVID time because of the evictions and ERAP. So if you want to talk to that.
So as Celine noted, our housing stability team is still fairly new. This was additional funding that we received through the pandemic that allowed us to create these positions in this program. It's been very resourceful. So the purpose of our housing stability team is they assist families within our community that are experiencing instability either with obtaining housing or maintaining housing. So to date, since the inception of the program, we have served over 628 individuals with housing stability needs. Additionally, what this program does is we go to court every Monday, which is when they hear the failure to pay rent cases. We also work closely with our sheriff's department, where we receive information on any warrants of restitution that we received in regards to people who are getting set out. What we've done so far is we work with those folks. We've actually been able to prevent 62 of those court-ordered evictions and help those individuals maintain housing as well. So there are two areas that our housing stability team works with. They also work with our rapid rehousing youth program for our disconnected youth. They are young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 who are literally street homeless. And we have been able to serve and house about 21 households to date with that funding and that program as well. Would you have any other questions I could answer for you in regards to the program?
What else can we do?
Pardon?
What else can we do?
What else can we do?
What more can we do?
So we've been fortunate with the additional funding and the stability of the funding we have, we can maintain this program. I think mainly what we have to do is make sure that the funding's there, that we can continue. With this program, it is walk-in needed, meaning if someone walks in the door, whether it be in our program or downstairs with HSP, one of our housing stability team members are gonna sit with them immediately and do what we call a needs assessment. When we do that needs assessment, of course, what we're doing is looking overall at that individual or that household's needs. We don't look just at programs. We're looking at, food, make sure they go to the food pantries.
Sure.
They're doing the things there. We're making warm handoffs to DSS or YSB, which is Youth Service Bureau. So just that continued support, and as long as we have the financial support to assist that program, we will continue to make the connections and help the individuals that we have here.
When they do the walk-ins, you ask them, how did you hear about this, I would expect.
We do.
How,
Go ahead.
just, how more can we do on marketing the program to ensure those that are in need know where to go? Because there's still, I would expect, a delta or a gap of those that need this service that are just not taking the opportunity.
So one of the programs that this also supports, HSP has an outreach staff member, and we also have peer supports through the health department that do outreach that are actually going out to work and find people that are unsheltered and they're homeless, or people that are street homeless, and they're working with those individuals who may not want to come in for services and continue to try to engage them to come in. The other piece is our outreach committee that we have as a subcommittee of the COC does planning for targeted areas where they feel we need to provide a resource fair, where we really need to get that information out to those most at-risk individuals or in the more rural areas. We have one coming up next week in Taneytown. It's going to be at Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church. We have over 30 resource providers coming to that event to provide information, services. We're giving free haircuts. There's going to be bicycle raffles, gift card giveaways for folks to really learn about the services that are provided. And we're pushing out a press release on that today through the county to make sure people are aware and to share that globally across the county. It's not just for Taneytown residents,
Right.
but anyone that wants to learn more.
Will dentistry be there as well?
They will connect them to that resource so that
Okay,
they understand.
good.
It's not going to be
Yep.
on site there, but
Okay,
they will give
yep.
them information about the different dental options that are available.
Okay.
Absolutely. So those are the type of events that we have, and we do
Yeah.
several of those outreach events per year. And we've even started implementing some pop-up
Yeah.
outreach events, even at the local hotels. If needed, because we find that some of the, and even to do outreach and education for the managers and the owners of the hotels to really help with them with an understanding of individuals that may be there that need services.
Okay.
The other thing I did want to say, with this application that we're submitting, it shows these services, but it also gives an overview and a narrative about all the way that these services connect to one another. So when people come to access us through coordinated entry, they move into the system where they are now eligible. We identify different programs that they may be eligible for, get them on waiting lists, help them learn about our night-by-night emergency shelter where there is no wrong door there. No one is turned away if they need to stay overnight there, can move on into adult-only shelter or family shelter, and then the piece where we help them get into either rapid rehousing, and also then into permanent supportive housing, and then our move-on strategy into a housing choice voucher, and then from there hopefully into independent housing, and help them through that stability process. It's a continuum of services to really walk someone into independence in their housing. And so the narrative, and Corey has worked with Danielle and done a great job to really map out exactly what that looks like in our community. And I would encourage you, if you have time, it's a lengthy narrative, but a lot shorter than our COC NOFA application, to really understand that process, because it is very well written, and we really do a lot with all of our community partners. We could
Yeah.
not do this alone.
Okay. Any questions?
I just thank you very much for what you do. And God bless you for it.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the submission of the FY24 Homelessness Solutions Program grant application and accept the award.
Second.
I got a motion and I got a couple of seconds. I think it was stereo. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's talk about approval to submit the proposal documents and accept the FY24-28 funding for interagency family preservation
Okay.
services.
All right, so it's Corey and I again teaming up. So we are here today to seek approval to submit the proposed documents and accept the FY24 through FY28 funding for the Interagency Family Preservation Services. The local management board is requesting approval to submit this budget to renew the Interagency Family Preservation Services program. Since 2006, the Family Preservation Program has been operated through a partnership with Carroll County Youth Services Bureau and the local Department of Social Services. Social Services is seeking to renew this for fiscal year 24 through 28 as a strategy to increase family stability in Carroll County. The primary goal of the Youth Services Bureau with the Interagency Family Preservation Service Program is really to provide a minimum of 42 families per year with children 0 to 18 years of age with services to prevent out-of-home placement and assist families with children transitioning home from an out-of-home placement. This also helps the family develop the skills that they need and resources to regain healthy family functioning, which is key. And they do this through a evidence-based program model called Brief Strategic Family Therapy. So if you've ever heard them refer to BSFT, which they will ramble off those acronyms, that is the key to their success with this program. It allows children, adolescents, and their families with problematic family relationships, significant mental illnesses, and co-occurring diagnosis to involve the entire family to focus on ways they can change their interactions and stop that cycle. And they have had great success. In FY22, they did serve their targeted 42 families, and at least one functional domain in their assessment had improved for every family that they served out of 95% of the families that they have served, which is a huge success. So we are seeking your approval to submit for the $395,580 of funding that will then be passed through us down to Youth Services Bureau for this program. There is no cash match from the county required.
Is this calculated?
Oh, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and this is an estimate because the state has not received their final
Okay.
allocation amount for this, but this is a projected amount.
Okay.
It may be more.
That kind of answered that. Do all jurisdictions go after these type of grants? I mean, or are we just so fortunate that we have Corey and others that are just so aggressive? I mean,
So
There
in
have
Carroll
been
County,
some
the Department of Social Services runs the family preservation program through a vendor. A lot of Department of Social Services do this in-house, but this has worked really well since 2006 to do this with the Youth Service Bureau. So DSS is very comfortable continuing this relationship, but all DSSs do some sort of family preservation.
right?
They look different in every DSS. You know, they have the flexibility to kind of make the program their own, and this is a model that they've been working again, you know,
Yeah.
almost 20 years now to work together with the Youth Service Bureau to provide this service.
I just think it's important visibility for the community to know money that's not in our budget that we're not going out, trying to figure out, and then we get through the hard work of all of you to supplement and actually do the things that we can do. If it wasn't, we'd really be in a world of hurt. So,
And this is a program that allows families, if it's not necessarily driven by their insurance, so they can access this service. If another family member is in some sort of clinical service, they can kind of work together, and it wouldn't exclude them from participating in this because of insurance, so that's really helpful as well. This program almost always has a wait list for families to get in and get
Wow.
this service, and they receive referrals from all of the partner agencies, the school system, DJS, local care team, so it's a long-standing, important program.
yeah, sounds it. You're saying?
And, well, I was just gonna say, I made a note here. It would be so interesting, as we're doing budget, we're talking about money that's being spent, is what is it, the rough total in grants
Yeah.
that we do? And many like this have no county match, and
Correct.
that's even better. But even when we match and get 2 for 1 or 3 for 1
Yeah.
or whatever dollars, it's still a good investment for Carroll County. And
Oh.
yeah, it would be nice, not to take away anything from this individual one, but you
No,
guys are here a
yeah.
fair amount with grants.
It's so appreciative. I mean, the communities. I just think that the community deserves to get the opportunity to hear that and listen to these type of programs. I love using other people's money. There's no doubt, and I just feel like it is competitive, and why we go after all this because of the needs in the community. So, I don't know, maybe we can package something. I apologize. Where you were saying?
Grants Office has a list of all the grants we get, so we're very successful. In fact, so successful. Another agency, not only is Citizen Services a heavy hitter in the grants department, but Land and Resource Management, and we've been able to get a lot of our MPDS requirement done as a result, using other
Right,
people's money as a
right.
result. And in 2018, I think it was, we were so successful that in using grant money that we did not actually issue bonds that year because we didn't need.
Yeah.
We were able to. We thought we'd need to issue bonds to pay for a lot of especially the land and the MPDS work, and we didn't need to.
That's a good story to tell. I think, I do believe in telling our own story, and that may be something. Is saying, here are all the grants, here's the packages of these type of services, and let the community understand we're going through a budget process, which is very difficult, to achieve all the things we want to achieve. We would not be able to achieve all the things if we didn't have the grant program as aggressive as we are. So,
I do want to.
I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
No, please, I apologize.
So the one note I did want to say in grants that we always have to remember is that when there is a grant that we are passing through the county, we do have to monitor that grant. Excuse me, and sometimes there's administrative funding to support that monitoring, and sometimes there is not. And so with this grant, we obviously monitor that. We monitor their programmatic reports and their fiscal reports, and then we share them with the other grantee agency, which is DSS. So we are monitoring that and providing reporting.
Yep.
And so just a general question, because Commissioner Rothstein had hinted at it a little while ago. And you don't have to give me precise numbers or anything. I just, as a general sense, do you find that the number of families that are at risk is increasing over time? Is it relatively stable, or has there's been? And I know it's going to be difficult with the whole pandemic, and everything. But do you find that the number of families that are at risk has increased, decreased, or has it remained somewhat stable? And if you
feel
don't
like
even
there's-
have an answer to that right now, that's
Yeah,
okay too.
I think there are more families maybe are more comfortable coming forward asking for help, because I think we're starting to make mental health services more accessible and sort of kind of work on getting rid of the stigma. But I do think that some of the families that are presenting with much more significant needs, either in an individual child or across the family. So it's kind of, we're better at identifying when people need help, but I also think the need is greater, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you very much.
No, that makes a lot of
That's a great
sense.
answer, and
Yeah.
we've talked back and forth about getting the word out.
Yeah.
But you made a great point. we also need to get rid of the stigma and let people come forward and take advantage of it, that there's nothing wrong with that. And we talked about that even again with the Lieutenant Governor.
With the veterans,
There's
yeah.
so many veterans that say, oh, I don't deserve that. I don't deserve that. Well, they do, you know,
And breaking down stigmas, yeah.
Step up and take part.
Yep. Really well said.
I attended the Local Health Improvement Coalition meeting last evening, and they did report out that we now have open access to mental health and behavioral health assessment Monday through Friday. There's a location available each day of the week in Carroll County now, and that's a great improvement from where we sat quite a while ago. And one of our FRF projects that you all funded was with the Youth Services Bureau. They received funding to expand their open access. So that is another piece
Right.
with the mental health where someone may not need it until they need it today, and there is availability for that.
And just to be clear for the community, FRF was federal dollars received post-COVID or in the effects of COVID. So, no, thanks. Any other comments? I know we kind of almost went down any rabbit holes. I think we just amplified the importance of this. So,
Absolutely.
appreciate that. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve submission of the proposed documents and accept the FY24 to FY28 funding for interagency family preservation services.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 2 for 2, approval to submit the proposal documents and accept the FY24 through 26 funding for promoting safe and stable families.
Okay, so again, this is another similar situation where we have funding that we're going to be passing through to subcontractors. The Carroll County Local Management Board is requesting approval to submit a proposal and budget to renew the Promoting Safe and Stable Families program. Again, this is funded through the Department of Human Services. And the Safe and Stable program is a partnership between the Carroll County Youth Services Bureau and the Family Center of Human Services Program of Carroll County. The Department of Social Services and Carroll County Local Management Board also are involved, obviously. Excuse me, the goal of this program is the establishment of permanency for young children in Carroll County. The program provides 3 strategies as the partners seek to achieve the goals of providing support and intervention services to prevent children from entering into foster care situations, to provide support and assist so that children returning home from foster care situations and their parents have a successful transition, and then also to move children into secure and permanent positions as quickly as possible when reunification is not an option. The partnership works closely with the entire childhood and child welfare community to ensure and develop a responsive service system. And it can provide a continuum of family and mental health services to support, strengthen, and preserve families in Carroll County. So through this, $83,044 is designated for Carroll County Youth Services Bureau, while the other is for $57,000 to HSP's Family Center program. The Family Center works with folks 0 to 5 years of age, whereas the Youth Services Bureau works with individuals and families age 2 through 7 for this program. So the total pass-through allocation is $140,000 to both of those entities in total.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Just feel blessed that we have you guys sitting in front of us doing all this work. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the submission of the proposed documents and accept the FY24 to FY26 funding for promoting safe and stable families.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Discussion, seeing here none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now let's go and talk about Manchester annexation, number 41, Patapsco 91 LLC.
It was a little cold this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
We are here today to present to you Annexation 41 for Manchester Patapsco 91 LLC. We do have Alex Perricone from the town of Manchester with us today to answer any questions. This is the first time you're seeing this annexation request, and this also has a zoning waiver attached to it. So with that, Hannah Weber from our department is here to present to you the annexation information.
Okay. With that, good morning, Commissioners. We are here for a Manchester annexation. So this annexation area is approximately 13.92 acres. There is access to Jommer Drive, a private drive, and then also Washington Way via Briar Way. This annexation area is being petitioned by the property owner, which is Patapsco 91 LLC. Here you can see that we are on the southern end of the area of Manchester inside the municipal growth area. Here you can see it is part of an existing enclave, which means that this, as well as the adjoining parcels, are completely surrounded by the town of Manchester's corporate limits. This now is, it goes against Maryland State Code, an enclave, but annexing this piece of area would shrink that enclave size, and it was originally annexed prior to that enclave rule. And you can see there are also other enclaves inside the town of Manchester. So here you can see an aerial view of the annexation area. It is slightly improved with some dwellings, but there's nobody that currently resides on the property. The petitioner has stated that they are intending to develop the annexation area when annexed into 14 residential lots. The current zoning under the county is R40,000 and conservation. The petitioners have requested to be placed into the R10,000 and conservation zoning districts in the town of Manchester.
Is that what the surrounding area is, or 10,000?
So the surrounding area is actually R15.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, in the town of Manchester. And, oh, I'm sorry, actually R20, no, R15.
R15,
Yeah.
got it. Thanks.
So the plan is to keep the conservation piece the same when it is annexed, and then the R40,000 piece that surrounds that would be placed into the R10,000. So since the R10,000 zoning district is 50% more dense than the county's R40,000 zoning district, that requires a zoning waiver, and that has been requested by the town. The designated land use for the annexation area is medium density residential. This is taken from the 2018 Manchester Comprehensive Plan. The area is actually in the no service categories for water and sewer, but the town of Manchester is currently working with the Department of Planning into bringing the annexation area into the priority service area for both water and sewer to develop the property after annexation. So we have received no agency comments. The Department of Planning is just recommending the town of Manchester give public notice by posting the property prior to the date of the public hearing and notifying all adjoining property owners of the public hearing. This past Tuesday, the County Planning Commission met and gave this annexation a favorable recommendation to you all. The Department of Planning is giving a favorable recommendation on the annexation and the accompanying zoning waiver. Today, we are here for no action or informational briefing. If you guys are ready to make a motion today, that is certainly a prerogative. But if not, we have time scheduled next Thursday, the 27th, for your official approval, denial of the zoning waiver, and then forwarding the comment letter to the town of Manchester.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize. Are there any public comments prior? I should have said prior to this.
And
So-
Pops Kelly.
Weird how that happens.
Good
Hello.
morning, Commissioners. Kelly Schaefer Miller, 73 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland, 21157. I'm here this morning on behalf of the applicants, or petitioners in this case, Patapsco 91. Patapsco 91 is an entity that's owned by Mr. John Serra and Mr. Shane McQuay, who are both Carroll County residents and small business owners in our community. Mr. Serra is here with us this morning. I also have Linda Alexander from CLSI, who has prepared the plat and the accompanying materials in case there are any questions of this board. I did just briefly want to state, kind of in answer to Mr. Rothstein's question, that the request for the R10 zoning district for a portion of this property, the rest being conservation, would result in development that's consistent with the surrounding area. The surrounding area is zoned R15, but has been developed under Manchester's clustering provision, I was lacking the word there, which has resulted in development consistent with the R75 district. We have had meetings with the town's planning commission and mayor and council on this petition. It will go back for a formal public hearing in May, but some of that discussion was specific to the lot yield on this property. So there's been a commitment of a maximum of 14 lots with the town of Manchester. That information was also in Hannah's staff report, but I wanted to point that out to you. So thus far, it's been the comment from the town's planning commission that the plans that they've seen, the concept plans, have been consistent with that surrounding area. And so far, they've been supportive, although, like I said, it has not gone to an official mayor and council vote yet at a public hearing. So I'm here, happy to answer any questions. We also have Mr. Perricone from the town of Manchester as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Yes, will this have any clustering? Will this end up with any open space, or will the lots take up the whole property?
This will result in clustering. To get the lot yield of 14, it will be clustered to be consistent with the surrounding development, and that will result in open space in addition to the conservation zoning district, which will also not be developed on this parcel.
Okay, Chris, you could take down the clock. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, one
Yeah,
more.
please.
Does the town have any reservations whatsoever about this?
Good morning, Commissioners. Alex Perricone, Town Administrator. No, the town does not. We support this annexation.
So, I apologize. With that said, that one map of Manchester with, I want to see some of the donut holes, some of the parcels that are, to the left. Is there an intent from the town to also identify those properties? And
So as part of this process, specifically with this property, we had the petitioner notify those residents who are still be in the county
Yeah.
if they would like to join in this annexation, and there was no response to joining from those homes.
okay,
However, as part of our process, the Planning Commission will, if this goes through, will require the developer to have sewer and water outlets at the edge of the property for the time when those individuals or future homeowners decide to come into the town of Manchester.
okay, yep.
Not part of this decision, but since you joined us, how long have you been town manager?
I started December 23rd.
So we finally got rid of Steve Miller. Oh,
He
you
ju-
don't have to say
he
that.
just walked home and didn't come back to work. How's that?
Okay,
took his
welcome
box and
aboard
left.
in the town.
thank you. Yeah, I would get away from the mic before there's other things to be said. So we have an option to either just accept what was provided and give it a week, or with what was said, to make a motion and move on to the recommended annexation of number 41, Patapsco, to Patapsco 91 LLC, so.
And so we need two motions, one for forwarding the comments and one specifically for the zoning waiver. The zoning waiver is the action that is required.
It's both in the, if
Yeah.
you want to make the motion.
Right.
And does anybody have any heartache if we do the second and not have them come back?
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
Well, I always prefer to give residents and people adjoining to properties the opportunity to make sure they're aware of this, and this is happening, so I always prefer to go a little slower, but, I mean, if that's the motion.
what are your thoughts?
I mean, I personally would agree with that, giving them the opportunity to speak as well, if you know, they have any concerns. And it's not trying to intrude on the jurisdiction of Manchester at all, but you know, I agree, giving the public a greater amount of time to relay their thoughts if they have them. Just to,
Okay.
Will the public, other than our meeting, see anything new in the next week?
No, there will be nothing new, and they have a public hearing process through the town of Manchester that will be following this, so that's part of the process, that they have to have this public hearing for their mayor and town council. So this is just for our recommendation and our comments.
Right, just to be,
so
for my clarity, the town ultimately has the say, and they could decide to or not to annex this.
Correct. And the only action and why it's critical for you all is the zoning waiver. If you do not issue a zoning waiver with this request, then they cannot rezone for 5 years, and it puts everything on hold for 5 years.
So in other words, to go from zoned 40,000 to
10.
10,000.
They would not be permitted to do so under state law.
Does it affect anybody here in a negative way if we wait the week? You guys are fine with that, right? You'd love to see us next
We're
week.
happy to come back next week if you'd like us to. I did briefly just want to say that this has gone to Planning Commission at 2 meetings, and then today and there has been no public attendance at any of those meetings as well.
That is
So
correct.
just
And no comments
just to
received.
note that for your information.
Okay. So is there a motion to either leave as is or, I mean, like, in other words, no, the motion
Would only be
would only be,
to approve, sign, forward the comment letter, et cetera, as it's written in.
Yeah, so we either make that motion or take no action and
Correct,
see you
right,
again
right.
next week. So you guys want to wait, right? I don't.
Well, two of you, I mean, is
It's
there-
just, I mean, I think I've been fairly consistent in wanting to wait and give people at least a week. But just to clarify something, we've had annexations come before us, and we've approved them as a board. But you just mentioned that that won't happen in this case?
No, so actually the opposite. So unless there's a zoning waiver, your only legal authority is the zoning waiver. If there is no zoning waiver, you're just simply forwarding comments that we have obtained from other agencies to let the town know where some issues might be with a particular annexation. But the town has the right to annex because the agreement is within the municipal growth area, that's been mutually agreed upon by this body at some point in time and the town of where their ultimate corporate limits will be. This is kind of different because it's filling in a space surrounded by already existing corporate limits, but the only action required for this board to take is for the zoning waiver.
Okay, so.
We do the comment as courtesy and to be helpful to the towns and to help forward the process along because we also work with our state partners and things like that.
So we recently had a situation similar to this with Westminster that came before us, and we ironed out some concerns, and then there was the Buffalo property down in Mount Airy. We voted on those annexations. So you're saying that the difference between those and this one is that it's because it's within the town
No,
itself?
you
What's the
didn't
difference?
vote to annex the property or not. What you voted on was forwarding the comment letter.
Okay.
That's what you voted on. Now, this is actually an action that would either be to the detriment or benefit of the town, depending on what action you take with the zoning waiver.
Okay, so the annexation piece itself, that would come back regardless at some point?
No.
The
It's in the
annexation-
municipality.
An annexation is really by right to the municipality. The board's only yay or nay is the waiver. I don't. It's almost as if the town doesn't need to come to the county at all if it's just annexation. If there's no zoning waiver, I don't know that that's 100%, and I'm not suggesting we change the practice because I think it works out well for everyone. But they pretty much have, they being the towns, pretty much have, as long as it's within that municipal growth area, have unfettered right to annex the property.
Sure, and I don't think, that's not my
Yeah.
intention to change
No,
that.
no, right.
But I know after each one of these annexations, we've signed the maps as well.
So that's different. That's the end
Process.
of the process.
After the annexation
Yes.
goes through.
I'll make sure I understood.
And that
Just
would
like-
happen regardless of if they came to you or not, so to speak.
Yeah.
Even if we didn't do this particular process, at the end of the day, you would get those maps because they are official zoning maps, and now you're showing this area once was in the county, and now it's in the corporate limits, and you remove it from our official zoning boundary. That's really what that action is. And then the town records whatever their zoning map is separately from our official map.
These are really good questions for clarity because it does become complex. And so I appreciate you doing this because not just you, but all of us, but also the community, because when we talk about this, it gets to be confusing. And so this action is Currently, it is R40 in conservation. The request is to do a zoning waiver to R10,000
And conservation.
and conservation, R10,000 in conservation, knowing that the town and everybody's supportive of it, and the expectations that the 14 homes would conform to the community clustered with some open space in, allowing, right? Is that, but I mean, that's on to them, that's not ours, but just knowing the intent.
Correct.
Okay, so we can either, keep this as a, informational, or we can make a decision to allow for the zoning waiver to occur and the process move forward. That's kind of where we're at. So,
I mean, again, I have no objection to the waiver of the annexation. I just, as Commissioner Guerin said, favor waiting a week just to see if there's any comment or anything else.
Again, that's exactly it. I'm not fundamentally opposed to any of this, but I am respectful of the fact that this is District 2, and very much part of your neighborhood. So,
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with it. The engineer, the prospective owner, the town, and county planning all seem like this is a good thing to do, and I'd love to see it in Manchester.
so are you motioning to sign?
I'd love to,
Zoning
but
waiver?
if two of you are against, I don't want it to be a 3-2 vote. If you want a week to think about it, I'm okay with that.
Well, or there be a deference to you as the commissioner for
Okay.
District 2. I mean, it may. We'll find
Okay.
out if that's what you want.
I move that the board approve, sign, and forward the comment letter, including approval of zoning waiver to the town of Manchester regarding Manchester annexation number 41, Patapsco 91 LLC.
Okay, and I'll second that, and, I appreciate that the deference or the, what do you call that legislation? Enabling legislation. When they have something for a county or jurisdiction, it's,
Deference is the right word. It's
Yes.
respect and, yeah.
it's a big word I don't typically use, so I appreciate getting the validity from my colleague to the left.
Is that your word of the day today?
I'm not sure what it is, so.
And the town will have public meetings, and
Yeah.
all that will happen, so I'm comfortable that everybody around it's gonna get proper notice and have their day, and so far, they haven't wanted it, but if they want it, you'll hear from them.
So Commissioner Guerin, does that help alleviate your concerns?
it does.
Okay.
Okay, so I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion? Indifference. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0, thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you all very much,
Okay.
too.
Next
For
one
the
may not be
record,
so
I'm
easy.
not gonna
Yeah.
get articulate. It isn't gonna happen,
Well,
okay?
the next one may,
Next one's
Next one's gonna be a process.
Maybe
Okay,
your challenge is to
so-
use the word defer now.
let's have a conversation about a text amendment referencing to allowing recreational cannabis and the use in Carroll County. And just prefaces before we get into this, I also reached out, just so you all know, I reached out to both Chris Hine and also to Linda. I'm getting a lot of comments about vape shops and other activity, legal activity, but the signage is getting to a point where you get those big signs all over. And and I talked to Chris, and I'm not putting one into the same basket as the other, but we did talk about this, and the signage unfortunately is in easements, and it's very hard to govern.
Correct.
Ways, yeah.
So it's frustrating because the community say, well, we don't want vapes and we don't want I say, I got it, I understand, but that's not for us to choose, from the county. But there's a lot of very deliberate signage that's going up, and vape shops, CBD, and all this other stuff, and then it feeds kind of into this, which brings a concern. So I just want to throw that out there, that the community's kind of out there talking about that. So
I'm not sure the community wants the government regulating the content on signs either.
well, No, except where the signs are placed.
Where the signs are placed, yes, but the content,
And
No, the content's not it. It's the, where the signs are placed being overwhelming to the community, saying, why are we allowing signs right up on the curbs of these?
they are
state
not legal.
highways?
We have an ordinance that prohibits that.
We do have an
It's
ordinance.
just very difficult to enforce.
That's correct. We have an ordinance that prohibits it. However, the enforcement of it becomes very challenging because it's overwhelming. So maybe, and we've done it before, messaging, trying to get it out there. But it becomes, the,
And our DPW folks, as they drive around the area, frequently do pick up those signs, the most egregious ones.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, the mattress sale signs and vape signs seem to be pretty,
we
just,
could maybe step up that effort as the spring is here. What do you think, Doug?
okay, so before we're going to talk about cannabis, we're going to allow Mr. Doug Brown to share
Good morning,
his wisdom.
Commissioners.
Morning.
So certainly we do with our roads operations, anything that lies within our right-of-way or what some refer to as the easement area, we do go around and police those as we're out in the community. We try to pick those up and get those off because just like you, we also hear from our customers that say, we don't like all these signs up next to the road. Is there anything we can do? But as the county administrator said, as quickly as we take them down, they seem to print these by the hundreds and they come back up. But we do certainly try to take a proactive approach, and we can have, if you will, I'll reemphasize that to the troops, and we'll try to get back out and after that a little harder.
Please
When
do
the-
so, and I apologize. It's just, it's brought to attention. It's an annoyance, and I think we're probably all aware of it. So, I want the community to know we're listening, and
Understood.
we will do what we can. But it's not our position, as our county attorney shared, what's on those signs. If it's legal, and we
Correct.
will not opine on that. So.
Yes, sir.
And so my question was, taking down the signs, are we able to levy fines against repeat offenders? And if not, is that something that we can look into? Because that seems like that would go a long way toward enforcement. If, you take down one sign and then next day it's back up, well, there's a $1,000 fine.
Yeah, I think, so I'll turn to the county attorney with regard to fine. However, what I would say is it often becomes a who did it. What I mean is who stuck that sign there? Did someone relocate it? Did they pick it up from somewhere else? So the burden of proof would be on us to prove that a company actually stuck it within that right of way when someone else could have gotten it from them, much like a political sign, and say, okay, I'm putting it out here because I want everyone to see what's going on. So we haven't done that, and we try to be good community partners and good business partners, quite frankly, because we know people are trying to operate regardless of what their business model is, and so we try to talk to them first. And generally we get compliance, but it is a constant effort required.
And I'm not trying to derail this topic, but it kind of, it's on my mind, and it's an annoyance. So, yeah, Mr. Burke, do you have any thoughts or comments on either fines or a way to curb the signage?
signs are addressed in the zoning ordinance. We'll take a look at that and see if that's an option.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Any other discussion on that? I just want to kind of throw it out there. Okay, now from that, let's talk about recreational cannabis.
So I'm also accompanied by Mary Lane and additional Hannah Weber. And we're going to change that misnomer, and I apologize that it's in the briefing paper labeled this way, but really adult use is the proper terminology, and that's been defined by the state of Maryland as such. So we're going to continue to refer to this as adult use. As you know from your briefings from Mr. Fowler, that the legislative session did approve adult use cannabis in addition to the medical cannabis in the state of Maryland. It will take effect on July 1. Why we're here from a planning and zoning perspective is that this can be regulated to a limited extent within your zoning ordinance. For us to address it within the zoning ordinance, we need your referral to the Planning Commission for them to have discussions on this. So with that, just to give a little summary of the legislation is that, as I said, this past session, the Maryland General Assembly allows and voted to approve the selling, growing of adult or recreational use in the state of Maryland. Jurisdictions have zoning authority over adult use cannabis. But they cannot unduly burden the cannabis licensee, meaning we can't zone it out of existence. You can't make it so onerous that no zoning category within your county where it's placed would be able to meet the law. So, that's something to consider. And that we do have, though, the ability to prohibit on-site consumption establishments. That is something that the law did give latitude to local jurisdictions to say, we don't want to allow this. Don't want to get too much into the law. My understanding is that they're only going to be issuing 50 of those types of licenses for now in the state of Maryland. Currently, we only have 2 medical dispensaries in Carroll County. And those are both in the city of Westminster's corporate limits. That's not to say that this couldn't apply to county land as well. Currently, we allow the facility for dispensing of medical cannabis as a principal permitted use in the C2 zone and the C3 zone. Following certain bulk requirements and setback regulations. Much of this has been laid out in state law for the medical use with its proximity to schools, daycares, religious establishments. And then we allow the facilities for dispensing in conjunction with growing and processing in the Industrial 1 and the Industrial 2 zoning districts. Currently, the distance requirement is 400 feet from any residence district, including the agricultural district where a residence acreage is 3 acres or less, and any lot occupied by, like I said, a school, religious establishment, or institution for human care. So the general regulations for the growing, processing, and dispensing is outdoor growing of medical cannabis is prohibited in all districts. So that has to do with, and I don't want to get into the Maryland law, I'm not well versed in it, but has to do with security issues, fencing, the ability to secure the site. So those are only allowed actually in indoor type of facilities in the state currently. Again, lighting shall meet our current lighting plans. We do have lighting plans that are required for site development where the lighting display can't leave the property, the lumens can't extend beyond the property boundary. And again, you would need a site plan that goes through planning commission approval. And we are not granting variances for distance in this section. A lot of times variances are for different things where we can come in and say, that distance requirement is 100 feet. We'd like to change that to 50 feet for some typical hardship that is not brought about by the applicant. It's something that's just innate in the property itself. So all of those things would be looked at moving forward with the recreational. I would tell you as of July 1, again, my understanding is that current medical facilities can be converted over to a medical/adult use. So medical use as an allowance will still remain as a specific type of use under the Maryland General Assembly law. The adult use is a separate definition and a separate law under the Maryland General Assembly, but medical dispensaries can then convert at that point in time to the adult use dispensary as of July 1. And then new adult use only could come forward within the regulations to be permitted. So I think big direction we would need from you is the allowance of on-site usage, whether you want to allow it or prohibit it, or within certain circumstances, and any other conditions you see applicable to this use that would not unduly burden the industry.
So I have 3 suggestions, if you don't mind me leading off the discussion on this.
Could I ask one quick question, Joe?
Oh, yeah, of course.
If you don't mind. So you said currently there's 50 potential sites in Maryland for on-site. Is that what I was to understand?
That's my understanding of
Okay.
the law, that their own, and again, all of this is going to be licensed and regulated through the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, which is a newly established commission for this particular use, adding it to the alcohol and tobacco. So they will be the regulatory body and authority for administering licenses for all of this, including, my understanding is, that on-site consumption component.
Okay, and so at this point, I'm going to make the assumption, which I don't like to make assumptions, they haven't given out any of these 50?
Nothing has happened.
okay.
This commission is just being formed and established, and we are waiting to hear more guidance. But for us, the first step is just making sure that you are sending it to Planning Commission. We are in no hurry to move and expedite this, but at least if referring it to Planning Commission as things come forward from this particular regulatory body, then we can have those conversations with our Planning and Zoning Commission to make sure that we're thoroughly discussing and vetting this proposed zoning change.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Vigliotti?
No, thank you, Commissioner Gordon. So first I would say 0 on-site consumption, no on-site consumption. I mean, I know that marijuana is delivered in any number of ways these days, but we do not want to add to any of the dangers that may be on the road that somebody typically encounters on a day-to-day basis either. The second thing, I don't know whether or not what we have right now does or does not have some kind of a nuisance caveat for a neighbor. For example, if I have a business next to a dispensary and they are not, clean, or the smell is overwhelming, or they are somehow deterring from customers coming into my store, what is my process for making a complaint about that or trying to have that situation taken care of? So I think there has to be some kind of a nuisance waiver, something in there that allows rights to surrounding property owners, business owners, residents, whatever, to take action. And then the last thing I'll ask is, so the 400-foot requirement, I'm given to understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the maximum distance is 500 feet?
400.
So it is 400, so we cannot increase that to 500.
Well, in our zoning code, the maximum is 400.
Well, there's certain uses that have 1,000. They're really heavy industrial uses, if that's what you're asking. But we could provide you with information. If you increased it beyond the 400, you may be unduly burdening them, because when you look at all the potential C2 and C3 sites and you draw more than 400 feet around it, you may be eliminating.
But when we design this, it's not a maximum, it's a minimum of 400 feet, that a facility cannot be in place any less than 400 feet.
Right, and so I'm
So you're
to
you're
extend
looking
that.
to extend. I see what you're saying.
Sure, and that might be that unduly burden, as Mary said. A lot of our C2 and even a lot of our C3 properties are small, especially the C2, which is the preponderance of our retail zoning district, and they're small. I mean, they might be an eighth of an acre, fifth of an acre. They might be 400 by 400. So that would be maybe unduly eliminating districts, but we don't know until we would do that. But that's something we can look into.
I would very much appreciate that, and that's one of the reasons why I brought up the idea of having that nuisance part of the ordinance, because again, it's kind of like going back to the signs. You cannot regulate what is on the sign. I can't necessarily regulate what kind of business opens up somewhere, but I want to make sure that anyone in that surrounding area has the right to some recourse, because again, it is not your typical everyday business. They're not doing potato chip sales or something. They're not doing it's not a pet store. This is a totally different kind of business, for our county. And again, I want to make sure that anybody, again, this is the state that's handed this down to us. I want to make sure that our residents have some kind of recourse to this.
Right, and since we have none in the county, it would not make anything in the county currently non-conforming. With Westminster, I'm not sure how they'll handle this, but just an FYI. So.
I appreciate that.
No,
just making sure that some kind of nuisance, I don't know what you would call it, nuisance clause, something in place. I mean, is that the right terminology, Tim? Something that allows people.
Business will have to be operated in a clean, orderly, or it would be a zoning violation. We'd have to work on something.
Yeah, we don't typically regulate nuisance via zoning, so we would have to have that discussion. Because we're just specifically talking about the 158 and the 155 would be our purview. If there's something that goes into other chapters, we'd have to have other discussions revolving around those. And I'm not sure that nuisance fits into the zoning category, but we can.
Something in place. Again, it's not like you move
Sure.
into a neighborhood that borders farmland, and you're going to get smells of manure at certain times of year, and you accept that because that's just normal part of living in a rural county. But again, if a marijuana business opens up next to my bookshop or something, right? And the smell or people or hanging out on the sidewalk or something, and they're deterring my ability to do business.
Yeah, they're
Or-
not processing it, though. They're just selling it,
But they're
right? They're not allowed to do any.
Or consuming it.
Well, if you allow.
We doesn't allow that.
No, that's what I'm saying, they're not consuming.
Yeah, they're not
They're
consuming.
not consuming, that's
I don't know
correct.
But there are still things like smells that emanate from this, and
I have no idea.
News to me, sorry.
So,
There could be. I
no,
don't
I appreciate, I mean,
yes, I'm good. Thank you.
just a couple questions, because I don't know, I know what, cannabis was. I don't know what cannabis is now as far as consumption. I hear about like gummies and all this kind of other stuff in consumption, so I don't know if it's the historical way of consuming, through smoking it or other things. But that is, a concern dealing with, that smell emanating and that kind of stuff. When we were doing the zoning for medical marijuana, we got into a very serious conversation about distances from schools and from other locations. One of my colleagues was very animate that he wanted it nowhere near. And I was not as animate, but I was saying if it's medically distributed, then we should encourage the appropriate use. And I said, well, anybody can get a card and things like that. I said, well, we should enforce the medical piece of it if that's what's being allowed, regardless if I agree with it or not, and govern it in that manner. That's how we kind of got out to the 400 feet. It was much farther out than 400 feet in the discussion. So if we want to make adjustments to that, especially since there's only 2 facilities now.
That would not pertain to those because they're in the city of Westminster.
Okay,
Yep. So we have nothing right now in the
so
county
we can
proper.
take a look at that
Yeah.
appropriately, and I have no issue with distance because 400 feet is really not that far. It's a football field. There's a balance between encouraging, this capability or this sales, and discouraging and acceptance. Well, we were saying that comfort level and acceptance level on other actions, maintaining Carroll County's culture and community. I mean, these are all parts that play into this.
Right.
But the fact is that it is being allowed. It was voted on, whether we agree with it or not. So I think you're coming to us today to get a bit of guidance, but to really get the Planning and Zoning Commission's work, on this, to get them to say, okay,
Correct.
what does right look like, and then come back to us with the recommendations. That's really what you're asking for.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, I mean, it's not to fix all the problems, today, but,
Right.
I just, we're out of the blue laws. We're out of the dry counties. We're out of certain activities, again, whether we agree with them or not. But there's a balance between that and the allowance. There's a balance between maintaining our culture and, allowing this.
And ultimately protecting our citizens who do not want a part of it.
I understand, but nefarious activities don't have borders, we don't have a moat around the county. And I don't want to make it easier for the county to get certain things, but I also want to be realistic, saying that, okay, this community right outside, you can get, X. So, I mean,
I understand that.
it's difficult because I don't agree with the recreational use personally, but from the dais, I can't, also say that in a sense that it has been agreed upon. through, referendum and through now being legislated, at the state level. So we can be further restrictive, and I think we should be, where it's not to be
Unduly
unduly
burdensome.
another big word, unduly burdensome. But I mean, yeah, I'd be very interested to see what the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think it's a very diverse group that we have on the Planning and Zoning, to come back to us with some ideas. But, okay, those are my thoughts. Any thoughts on
I
this?
have a couple. The land use categories that you've designated on here, is that the only ones it will be allowed in?
Well, that's what it's currently allowed for the medical. So we can reevaluate all of.
Is it pressure from the state to open it up more, or not really so far?
Again, it's up to, you do have the local land use autonomy
Yes.
to decide what districts you want to go in. For the medical discussion, the board felt at the time that these were appropriate districts for the dispensing and growing and dispensing.
These properties, are most of them in public water and sewer, or not really?
It varies. I would say all C3 is on public water and sewer because we only have that in the Freedom area. I don't think in Finksburg, maybe.
Finksburg, there's a few.
Oh, yeah, maybe Finksburg too.
There's a few here and there.
And the C2,
not-
other than the Freedom and Finksburg area, we don't, and a little bit around Westminster as well. C1 is probably the most commercial that's on well and septic. And then the I1, I2, I would say similar.
Yeah, and I haven't paid attention to the medical sites. I was involved with one, and it needed a lot of water, and they were trying to get permission to use recycled water and gray water. Is that allowed here, or that would have to be?
I don't know what the state's regulations are as far as the consumption of water and the usage, and it wasn't written in the bill as such. It was more just the allowance of the facilities and the usage. And they did not really address in this legislation the growing of the medical cannabis. And I believe there's only so many licenses of that, but now you also have personal, you're allowed to grow for your own personal consumption as well.
But the ones growing to sell, are they restricted to only growing indoors?
That's my understanding as of now.
What I thought too.
I don't think they changed that, but that could change.
Yeah.
That could change under this regulatory commission. We don't have enough information yet.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that's why we're going to be very slow and deliberate in how we approach this.
I've gotten some contact from people, and I think they're wrong, and I hate to open up Pandora's box, but what the hell, who cares? They thought this was a great boom for agricultural people in Carroll County, but as I see it, it may not be zoned in those areas, and it has to be indoors. And like I say, what I've seen of the medical sites that we proposed to people, they didn't get the license, so we didn't get to follow through. It was the water requirement was really, really heavy. So that right now there isn't any indication that this is going to be ag people, and you don't grow it like tobacco as much as people think you do.
No, or the hemp either. That's also, and a lot of people may confuse that too, because hemp is allowed to be grown, and I do understand that from people that live near, it can be smelly on certain times of the year, but that's completely different and does not have the THC levels that cannabis does.
Yeah, and that can be done outside.
Yeah,
right?
that can be done outside.
Yeah.
And that's more for fiber and those types of products,
Yes,
ropes,
yes.
yeah.
Now, for the sale, if we were to restrict the products they're selling, that's probably undue. That's probably not fair to them, but I know a lot of people are more open to smoking than they are to gummies being all over the place. But we can't restrict that.
No, we can't discriminate against the type of what someone's selling.
That's what I thought.
Sounds like the sentiment is slower the better in developing
I understand.
these ideas. I mean, but yeah.
I'll make a few comments. First of all, let's be clear, cannabis is a dangerous drug. And it is not the same cannabis that you're referencing, and you ask a good question, and it's much more powerful, and THC's levels are much higher.
Oh, is it?
And
That's
clinical studies have already said that this is not a calming, the result of smoking a lot of this. It's not it doesn't have a calming effect on the long term. People develop psychosis and all kinds of other issues. The state, we haven't really, we're going to be struggling with how to handle people who are driving while stoned, or whatever you want to call it.
There's no testing.
And the issue of the different delivery methods is very problematic, because if you're ingesting it, you could ingest a large amount of it and wait for a result. By the time the result starts, you've already taken too much, and you're deathly ill, as opposed to other methods. So sometimes, when you've got a choice between a bad decision and a worse decision. Sometimes the best decision is to do nothing. And I know that the Maryland General Assembly passed this law. They passed a lot of bad laws, even though they knew that other states who have already experimented with this usage are regretting it, and some of them are very left-leaning types of states. So again, this is no reflection on the motion and the briefing itself, but I don't know why we have to do anything right now. We shouldn't.
Well, my question would be, by doing something, are we being proactive and maybe being as restrictive as we're allowed to be, as opposed if we do nothing, we're subject to just whatever the state says?
Yeah, that's what I
again,
like.
Like I say, I wouldn't want to see us open it up probably beyond these land use areas, but the state may well do that. So are we being proactive, or, because I feel a little bit like you do, but then I feel like I don't want to 6 months from now say, oh, heck, we should have done something.
I don't want
You know what I
the
mean?
state telling their story. Yeah.
Well, I understand that, and they're going to do that no matter what. I mean, I think we're all getting used to that theme. But if it doesn't, at some point, I just feel as though once you send it to Planning and Zoning Commission, we as elected officials have started the process. And I'm not at all even comfortable with the process. I'm not even comfortable with the fact that this could be in our county. If people really want it that badly, they can drive into another county and get it. So I really question why. And I can tell you, just from speaking, the district that I represent, families, parents, grandparents, I mean, nobody wants to see this as the next challenge to parenting. It's already hard enough. And then the state goes ahead and makes this, passes this law. I get it, it's a law, but it's not going to make life any easier for people in this county who have kids and are trying to go about their daily lives in a county that they feel has their best interests in mind. So I acknowledge the fact that this is an issue we're going to have to probably grapple with, but I don't feel as though, I don't understand why we'd have to take any motion today. This General Assembly just ended a couple weeks ago.
Right.
I mean,
But I think,
Well-
tell me if I'm wrong, if we do, lets them plan, and they can't create anything final without us approving it once they work on it. So this is for
Yeah.
you to get started, and it would come back to us, correct?
Absolutely.
Regardless.
With
I-
work sessions
yeah.
and public hearing
I
and
think,
everything.
Commissioner Guerin, because I agree with what you're saying regarding the sentiment. And it's not the General Assembly, it's the state through referendum that allowed this. Now it's the legislation, the General Assembly trying to put the bookends on the legality of it and use, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I rather tell our story the best we can within the limits of whatever the General Assembly comes up with or the laws come up with, but take it to a certain, as far as we can, I don't say to the right, but to, again, who we are, a very, a conservative approach. But yeah, I'd rather tell our story than have somebody tell it for us. And if it's shoved down our throats, and we didn't take that opportunity, it's like shame on us. So, and it's work. I mean, that's what it is. It's staffing that we're asking them to do right now. So,
I have
yeah,
created.
I
I'm sorry,
apologize. Just last thing,
apologize.
because I didn't know about the potency and stuff like that. I had no idea. I have no idea. I'm not educated on this well enough. So I appreciate that. That's interesting.
This is not what was being passed around in the 1960s. I mean, it is countless times more potent and more dangerous. I mean, I've read medical studies where the addiction rate is between 8 and 15% for first-time use. So it's and it is dangerous. I mean, you're listening to individuals who have been through drug court or rehab, and then they, more often than not, they say that marijuana was a gateway to heavier usage.
Yeah.
Which is again why I'm so confounded by the fact that we are fighting so hard against opioids and heroin and fentanyl, and here we are creating what is effectively a conduit for use and stepping forward to those drugs. I mean, I know everybody says, oh, you must be 90 years old if you oppose this, and I know I'm the youngest one here, and I fiercely oppose this. I mean, I've seen what it's done to friends of mine. I've seen what it's done to other young people my age, and again, listening to the stories of these people who have survived and have been through this, it is dangerous. So again, I can't understand how we as a state can say, we have to fight heroin, we have to fight fentanyl, we have to fight drugs, and again, here we are creating a conduit to that kind of activity. So I have created a motion, and you can all agree or disagree with it, but so I motion that we forward the issue to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review and recommendation with the direction of making this as restrictive as possible and ensuring the rights and protections of the lives and safety of Carroll County citizens, expressing grave opposition to the state over the legalization of marijuana.
So say that last part.
Expressing grave opposition to the state over the legalization of marijuana. Basically that we are doing this under protest because we have no other alternative. But we do need to be proactive to make it as restrictive as possible and to move to protect the rights and lives of our citizens while we have the opportunity to do so.
Before you get a second, did you not want to put something in about no on-site consumption?
Oh, no, I want that. So
Okay.
And I think you've taken, yeah.
Yeah, those are.
But should
That
probably be in
doesn't
the
need to be
motion.
part of the motion,
Do you want
because
me to-
that was part of the
Put it in
discussion.
the motion
Or
just
do
to
you
be
want
sure.
it part of the motion?
All right, so I will include no on-site consumption in the motion, looking into increasing the maximum amount of distance between businesses, and also finding a way to ensure complaints, whatever the correct term, not nuisance, but a way to ensure that residents have the right to recourse over this.
Okay, can you repeat that motion? I'm kidding.
And,
I can
well,
try.
before that, I'll second it, but I also need to make, I don't remember seeing you at any of my parties in the 60s. Sorry.
I was a square back then.
No comment.
I was at home watching Firing Line with William F. Buckley.
Okay, you second it.
Yes, I second.
So I got a very lengthy and specified motion that I believe you captured.
Yes.
And I
Sorry.
have a second. I'll open up for discussion because, again, it's
One,
it's comfort and acceptance. And honestly, I must have had my head in the sand. I did not know about potency and things like that. For some reason, I just felt like it was, like you said, back in the 60s and 70s, like that's potency. I didn't know that. That's
And is this-
that's terrifying.
Well,
And-
here's an interesting side note. The biggest investor in marijuana right now is Big Tobacco. It's the tobacco companies that are investing in it more than anybody because they see fewer Americans are smoking cigarettes, and they know they have a new lucrative market with marijuana.
Yeah, the irony of all this is I thought smoking was bad.
Right.
So did I.
So
But
let's just
that's why
pass
I
some-
didn't think it was smoking. I thought
but it
they-
is. But
no,
it
no,
is
no, but
smoking.
no,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
just- I'm being-
I thought it was.
being a
I
cynic,
thought it was those gummies or something. I
Yeah.
didn't know they're selling. But again, I may have to go into one of these places and say, okay, what is this all about? Because I.
Well, and part of what they're doing now is they're refining it for use in vape. So it's not necessarily lighting up, a marijuana cigarette or a joint. It's you're condensing it and putting it into vapable form, and that delivers a higher concentration of it as well. Same thing with instead of smoking a cigarette, you're delivering a greater dosage of nicotine from the tobacco versus smoking the cigarette. So it's
Again, I don't want to derail it too far. I just I'm naive to it. I just didn't
not
know.
naive.
so,
I mean, it's learning for all of us. I
I'm
mean, I've been
educated,
stunned
so-
myself over the last couple of years with how it's
Okay.
evolved. So.
Okay, so we do have a motion, we have a second, and the basic of the motion is to provide guidance and direction to the Planning and Zoning Commission to, identify the next steps and recommendations back to the Board of County Commissioners. Is that, there's no timeline associated with this? Okay.
And I think, based on some of the comments, and I think we've done well with that since December, we need to make sure we really, really put out the info for public comments, for their opportunity to come tell us, and that's all part of the process.
Correct.
So, but you're right, but we all know what's going to happen. The activists, the people that want to see this happen, are going to show up in droves, and the parents who are working, who are doing their job, following the laws, paying our taxes, they don't have time to come to these meetings. So we know exactly what's going to happen if we do have some hearings. I'm frustrated with the discussion because it's a lousy law. It hurts Carroll County. The General Assembly, it seems like they are hell-bent on making Maryland into a state that none of us are going to want to live in. Maybe that's their intent. Who knows? I don't want to get too political. But why not show some resistance to this entire concept? Why not? Why not say, hold on a second, this doesn't help Carroll County. I think that it's going to make things worse, not better, and just hold off. Why not? What do we have to lose? Are they going to come in and file a lawsuit against the county? Well, then put me on there as a plaintiff. I'm fine with that, because
Defendant.
or defendant. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
defendant. See, that's why we need a lawyer in the room. Put me on there as a defendant. I kind of feel like this is one of the reasons I'm here, is to look at things like this and go, this is complete BS for the state. So let's just play the game that the other side plays sometimes, and just defer any action and maybe have some further discussions on how we want to handle it.
And-
Commissioner,
I agree with you. Everything you just said, I agree with, except that in order for us to step up, going back to telling our own story, getting the planning and zoning folks and the staff to take this on, to come back to us. It's not to, and the recommendations may go exactly where you're going. My biggest concern that I have seen, whether it's here or in prior lives, when a higher headquarters or a higher jurisdiction comes down and says, you will do. And I'm like, dang, why didn't I tell my own story so they don't come down and do that? And there's more reluctance.
I understand.
That's kind of where I'm at, but everything you said, the sentiment's there. I
Right.
agree, so.
And Commissioner Guerin, I would humbly suggest that we could do both. We could take proactive steps to make this as restrictive as possible in our county. And if you're interested in, I don't know whether we could file suit against the state, I have zero concern with that whatsoever. I have zero concern with trying to voice opposition in some capacity. I have zero concern about that.
Well,
And if we do public comment, maybe make sure it's in the evening. And unfortunately, like some other issues we have going on,
Yeah.
it's all about the money. And yes, we're gonna hear companies and developers come in here and try to out-talk the parents and the regular taxpayers we have.
But I've been impressed how our planning and zoning and our planners have received comments via emails and texts, and even when we receive them, and people say, why are you doing this during the day? I can't make it, but I am fully and 100% against this. I push that over to Linda, and they reach out to them and ensure that they capture those comments. It's kind of one reason I have those town halls in the middle of the day and then in the evening, because you're right, there's people that just cannot attend, but everybody's voice matters. And
Well,
so
I know there's always mechanics involved, and,
Yeah.
and I understand what you're saying. I appreciate it. We always want to make our hearings as accessible as possible, but
Yeah.
the common notion that, or the realization that the people in the county who elected us to do the right thing, they have lives, they're busy, they do things every day, every night, they're taking care of their kids, they're working overtime, they're obeying the laws, they're doing the things that we all do as family members, as moms and dads and grandparents. And you already know where this is going to go. They're not going to be here because they've got jobs to do and responsibilities. And the advocates for this law, whether somebody's making money or not, will be here to spin what I see a lot of times are just flat out lies about the benefits of this drug. So.
And you're right, it is a drug. It is a drug.
Okay. I do have a motion. I do have a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, seeing hearing none. All in favor moving what was shared to Planning and Zoning Commission for further discussion and then come back to us.
Aye.
Aye. Against?
No.
Okay, 4-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank
appreciate
you all very
Hey,
much.
thank you.
Dialogue.
We didn't make it simple, did we?
That's okay.
No,
You provided very clear direction.
and it wasn't quite a rabbit hole. It was one big nasty hole that we have to deal with.
And you're right. The average voter that put us here is who we need to think about.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Okay, since that was so easy, let's make it a difficult one. 2023 hot mix asphalt paving. Gentlemen. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Carrie.
That's okay.
I
morning
saw
to you
Doug back
both.
there. I thought he was coming up, but he's just there for strength and courage from behind, I guess. I don't know. So, go ahead.
The Office of Procurement in cooperation with the Bureau of Engineering request your approval to award the contract for the 2023 hot mix asphalt paving 2 to CJ Miller LLC in the amount of $3,756,111.40. This work consists of paving approximately 13.40 miles on 29 roadways. The county requested competitive sealed bids and received 3 responses. This amount is within the adopted budget and no additional funds shall be necessary.
Okay.
morning.
Chris?
Good morning. As was stated, we're here to seek your concurrence to award our pavement preservation 2 contract for FY23 to CJ Miller LLC. The 29 roadways, 13.4 miles. The list is in your briefing packet. Hopefully everyone has those. This work and repair will preserve our aging infrastructure. We'll be doing full depth reclamation, milling of pavement, placing of hot mix asphalt base and surface courses, adjusting and rebuilding of inlets, storm drain pipe replacement, rebuilding of ADA ramps, shoulder backup, mains to traffic, and a series of other incidental items. This project includes 100 working days, and CJ Miller has completed similar work for us in the past. And I would like to take a note to thank you for the recognition of the work zone awareness this week. This type of work is going to put between 15 and 25 workers each day for those 100 days along our busy roadways. It's already been a troubling spring for us on the work zones. So anything we can do today I believe is Social Media Awareness Day. Tomorrow we'll have our moment of silence.
Yep.
Anything we can do to keep our employees and the workers of our contractors to go home safe to their families is important. So
Definitely
thank you.
appreciate it, and just continue to remind us the things that we can do from here if there's additional. You're hitting, I think, every road is hitting one of us in the districts. So, any thoughts, comments?
Yes, it's good. I think all the commissioners are probably very happy that the county saved 19% on the public bid process. Do you, well, not do you know, do you put out the engineer's estimate? Is this, with costs going up, even though this looks very competitive, it still might be pushing the engineer's estimate, or is that not something you put out?
We do not share our engineer's estimate.
Okay, that's
But
what I
we
thought.
do, if it comes in over our engineer's estimate, we do look to see why. Is there something that we missed, something everybody else missed? This contract, the contractors, in some of the bid items, they got very creative because they saw what somebody did previously. And we're going to take advantage of that creativity as much as we can in the best interest of citizens.
I saw R.F. Klein bid 10 cents on guardrail because they thought the jurisdiction wouldn't make them do it, and I won't mention names, but one of your chief inspectors, I think they did about a mile guardrail that year.
You know, I feel like this is the Price is Right. Everybody puts their numbers out, and if they're all over, they start over.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Yep.
But, okay. This will get us to, this is still using $23, FY $23.
Yes, this is FY '23.
We have more to do within FY '23.
Yes, we had a bid that was released yesterday.
Okay.
Which is actually our what we call pavement one. We got behind for some staffing issues, but that'll be open sometime mid-May, I believe. So we'll
Okay.
be back here end of May, 1st of June for concurrence on that.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion on this?
Motion to award the contract for 2023 hot mix asphalt paving 2 to CJ Miller LLC in the amount of $3,756,111.40.
Second.
I got a motion. I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing here none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there public comment for topics so far, or no? Sorry. Any comments? No? Okay. Let's talk about pavement condition surveys for the pavement management program.
Thank you. As part of the Department of
I apologize, Chris, before you go. This list of roads, is this going to be publicly available? So people know when roads are going to be?
So we will send out letters to each one of the residents along those roadways, letting them know specifically what we're going to be doing,
Okay.
providing details of what that's going to be,
Yep.
times of inconvenience,
Yep.
and then every week we put out a list of roadways we're going to be doing upcoming week.
Okay, I apologize, cutting you off. I just
No problem.
thought about, okay, thanks.
So as part of our Department of Public Works Pavement Asset Management Program, we conduct a condition survey of 931 centerline miles every 2 years. This field survey indicates critical distresses in our roadways and is inputted in our Agile Assets Pavement Management software, which is used to develop our annual pavement management program list. This is one of the tools we use to ensure we're performing the right treatment to the right roadways at the right time. The Kircher Group has been performing this pavement condition surveys for Carroll County for several years, and they are one of our term contracts, which was previously competitively bid. So this work is for the next upcoming projects. We're going every 2 years we go out and reassess all our roadways. Where are they? And then we'll develop our work program for the next 5 years out of this condition survey.
This, Commissioners, just to add, would be sometimes if you write us, for example, this year, and we have a customer who says, hey, where's my road on the repaving schedule? We will come back with you with a response that often says, well, currently, it's right here. But that could change based on the conditions in the survey that we're constantly doing, realizing that money isn't endless. We constantly are rechanging and reprioritizing to make sure that we're addressing the most critical needs up front, and that's what we bring to you as a result of what this group does for us.
So the report that we receive will be financially constrained based on the projected budget.
Right.
Motion to approve the Department of Public Works to use the term contract with the Kircher Group to complete pavement condition surveys in the amount of $103,086.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second. Any discussion? Yeah, please.
So this is an annual term contract or longer than a year?
So it's annual with 4 possible renewals.
Have they done it before?
Yes, they've done this work for us for a good while.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen. Okay, let's talk about FY23 Farmers Scrap Tire Drop-Off Event. Hey, Chris, by chance, do you have that one photo of feet available?
I do.
Can you pop it up there? Maybe? No? Correct. Okay. I was just wondering, Mr. Engel, why were you wearing sandals at that time?
It was dress down day.
Okay, I'm just asking. So that is Mr. Engel's.
I'm in the black
appropriate-
shoes, just to be on.
in the black boot.
Wearing them
So
today.
just saying.
It's just wrong.
But the thing is, the sandals were outside the work zone, right? And they stayed outside the cones.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's clear I'm the one on the left, not the one on the right.
Just saying. Go ahead.
Last week was my pink tie, this week it was your sandals.
Yeah. What am I going to say? Anyway, good morning, Commissioners. On that note, joined here this morning by Maria Myers, who's our recycling manager. I believe it's Maria's first time here in front of the board, the new board. We are very happy to announce today that the state of Maryland will be funding 2 special tire recycling events this year, one for farmers and one for residents. And I'll turn it over to Maria, who can provide details of each event.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we've been approved to participate. The first event will be for farmers. Free of charge option for disposing of scrap tires that they've have accumulated on their properties. This is a very popular event, but the tires must come from a Carroll County farm. Non-farm and commercial entities are not allowed to participate, and they must have documentation that they are an active farm or have a Farm Bureau membership or a postcard from the Farm Bureau when they make their delivery. The state of Maryland will reimburse for the cost of transportation and disposal of scrap tires up to a maximum of $78,000 per county, and we will also be reimbursed for $2,500 for scrap tire equipment and labor for loading assistance. So we're asking the commissioners to approve us to host this event with the Carroll County Farm Bureau and accept the maximum reimbursement for the from the Maryland Department of the Environment.
Have we used that much last year?
We used, the last ag tire event, we used $81,000.
We used 81, so this is right around the same.
Yeah, well, and they had originally given us $60,000, and we all cried the blues about that. But then they found out that not all the counties were participating, so they, just this couple of days ago, came back and told us they were going to give us more money.
Okay, so bottom line is you're getting the word out and the community is able to get their tires.
The farmers to start, yes, and there will be.
That's great.
We work through the Farm Bureau, the local Farm Bureau. Jason Myers, who's the president of the Carroll County Farm Bureau, will be working with them. I've been talking to him periodically to make sure we get this set up, because they're going to help us this time. They're going to actively have somebody on site for us. We're going to have it. We're asking the farmers to please come within the time frame of 10 to 1, not to show up at 7 a.m. in the morning thinking they're going to get ahead of everybody, so that we can manage the throughput of these tires, because it can get very hectic.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're asking, and we're looking to schedule it for the first week in June. Hopefully, everybody will have everything planned and they'll be ready.
How do you reimburse for the cost of transportation?
I take the hours and how much the equipment costs to run that, and I work through our payroll department to get the cost for the whoever the personnel is to helping them load the tires.
So that's,
And I submit that to MES to get reimbursed for that money.
but then if a farmer brings them there on his truck, does he get reimbursed to get them there?
No.
That's
No,
not part of
they
it.
get the free
Yeah,
disposal.
exactly.
No, it's our labor that's
what I
gonna
thought.
load
Yeah, it's your
into,
labor,
right.
your help with unloading, your transportation,
Right.
not theirs. Okay.
Yes, because the vendor will drop roll-off containers, and we will load those containers with those tires,
And you have to move those.
and we will have to move those around for pickup from the vendor. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing we'd like to note on this too is with that $78,000 and the price per ton that it's going to cost to dispose of the tires, that backs into a number that's around 280 tons of tires that we can handle in this program. We're letting the Farm Bureau know that it is our intent, though, to truncate that program, to stop the program when we start coming up on that 280 ton, so we do not go over. If we were to go over, two options: one, we can beg the state for more money, may or may not happen, or it'll come out, the disposal will come out of our budget.
Right.
So we will be actively counting the tires, weighing them and making sure that they're cut off. The event might last 2 days, it might last all week, we just don't know at this time.
And it sounds like last time you did it, you were close.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a pretty good number, 78,000, and it was 81,000, so that's,
Correct.
okay.
So you'll be having the two events. You said there's, well, obviously the first one's the farmer event in June, you said?
In June, first week in June.
week in
That's
June.
what I've let the.
Is there any
farm
any rough estimation, I guess I should say, of when the other event will be, just out of curiosity?
Yes. Do we want to move forward with that?
That's our
Or do you
next
wanna-
item.
Oh, is it the next time?
It's
I'm
the next
sorry.
item,
I'm sorry.
yes.
Let me finish this one then real quick. I apologize.
It's Ag Day,
Um,
so what can I say?
The only other
First time
question.
she saw us, we don't want to make her.
No, I don't want to make her day too bad. In regards to the Farm Bureau, are they going to be sending out, I guess, notice to all the various
Yes.
farmers in the community? Okay.
Yes. We were originally scheduled earlier, but they had a problem with the vendor, so we had to postpone it, so we
Gotcha.
didn't want to hit the planting season, so we're doing it in June. But yeah, they'll communicate, they'll have it posted on their webpage, and they'll send postcards out to the members. Now, the non-members are another story. They'll have to,
Yeah.
believe me, they get the word, and as long as they come with documentation that they are a farm, then we'll work through that.
Gotcha.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the Department of Public Works participation in the FY 2023 Farm Tire Amnesty Drop-Off event and accept up to the maximum reimbursement from the Maryland Department of the Environment.
Second.
I got a motion second. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's talk about the FY '24 Citizen Scrap Tire Drop-Off event.
Okay, so we're having two events this year. The second one is the Citizens Scrap Tire event, and that will allow residents, that means that they're non-farm and non-commercial entities will not be able to participate in this event, and they'll be able to deliver one load up to a maximum of 10 scrap tires per vehicle with the one trip per resident, and we have to track it, in a non-commercial vehicle on or off the rims with a size limit of 33 inches. So the state of Maryland will reimburse the cost of transportation and disposal of scrap tires up to a maximum of $15,625 per county, and will also be reimbursed for $1,000 for advertising the event. Now, I will advertise we'll do a press release, advertise in the Carroll County Times, and I'll get the word out on our web pages, because this is going to the residents, so they are aware of this event. And so we were reimbursed for that event, whereas for the other event, the Farm Bureau will be notifying members. So we're asking commissioners to approve the Carroll County to host this event and accept the maximum reimbursement from the Maryland Department of the Environment. And I've already scheduled it for Sunday, June 16th, 8 to 1.
And you will take them on the rim.
Oh, yes, they'll take them.
Wow.
Our current program takes on the room also.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
You can't ask them to take them.
Oh, I understand.
We're gonna get them anyway. Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to approve the Department of Public Works participation in the FY 2024 Citizen Scrap Tire Drop-Off Event and accept up to the maximum reimbursement from the Maryland Department of the Environment.
Second.
I got a motion, got a second. In discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Maria.
And I
Thank you.
one
Thanks.
last thing.
Sure.
Saturday is our household hazardous waste and shredding event at the vehicle maintenance facility from 8 to noon. And just in case.
Old Meadow Branch Road.
Old Meadow Branch Road.
Old Meadow Branch Road, not Meadow Branch Road.
Not Red- Old Meadow Branch Road. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay. The next topic is regarding a hearing for Russell Standard Corporation bid protest. Turn over, nothing to Mr. Burke? No?
Good morning. This is a bid protest filed under your procurement law. On March 10th, 2023, the Office of Procurement issued a notice of intent to award a contract to an outfit called American Paving Fabrics. And on April 4th, Russell Standard filed a request for a formal appeal hearing before the board, and that's why we're here today. Are you from Russell Standard? Okay.
I'm Todd McConnell, this is Amy Graylish.
Thank you.
Russell Standard.
Before we start, since this is one that can be appealed to the circuit court, would anybody who's going to give testimony please stand for me?
Whoever's talking.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony or evidence you give today is going to be true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Thank you. Everybody nodded. Thanks. Okay, did you get the documents I sent you about the agenda and the order? Okay, the agenda we have before us, we're going to hear from the Office of Procurement. They're going to present their statement. They have 10 minutes to do so.
Okay.
And then we'll hear from Russell Standard Corporation. They'll have 10 minutes to do their position. American Paving Fabrics has contacted me yesterday and said they will not be appearing today, so.
Okay.
Okay, good morning again, Commissioners.
Hey, Chris, put on the 10-minute stopwatch. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Would you state for the record who you are, what you do?
Okay, Maureen Dunn. I am the Procurement Officer, Office of Procurement. And as Tim had said, this is a protest filed by Russell Standard in reference to our bid, RFP 19F1 2223. And I'm going to read the administrative statement, which is basically a timeline and facts of from the beginning of when the bid was put out to when we received the protest from Russell Standard.
Before you start, will you move the microphone just a little bit closer to you? I think
There you
your
go.
voice is very quiet and it might be hard for folks.
Is that better? Okay, as I had mentioned, we put out a bid for the 2023 chip sealing of gravel roads, was posted on public purchase on January 6, 2023. Part of the bid packet is a general information for bidders, which in that information for bidders states, as it pertains to this protest, there's a section called reservations, and in that reservation, it is stated that the county is not obligated to award the contract to the apparent low bidder and specifically reserves the right to waive informalities, to reject any and all bids, and to award the contract in its entirety or in part, whichever in its opinion best serves the interests of the county. It also states that the county shall have the right to make such investigations and to take such steps as it deems necessary to determine the ability of the bidder to perform the work. In part, are statements made in the bid specifications concerning award of bids as it pertains to this protest. Award of the contract, all bidders must be pre-qualified through the county prior to submitting a bid. Additionally, the county may make such investigations as it deems necessary to determine the ability of the bidder to perform the work. The bidder shall furnish to the county all such information and data for this purpose as the owner may request. Such information may include but not limited to Goes on to state, should the county determine that the apparent low bidder is not the lowest responsible bidder, the apparent low bidder will be notified and his or her bid security returned without prejudice. We did receive 2 bids on February the 1st for this project. American Paving Fabrics put in a bid of $776,320. And Russell Standard put in a bid of $484,538.60. On February the 13th, I received an email from the Bureau of Roads recommending award be made to American Paving, which was Viva purchase request, naming American Paving as the suggested supplier, and with American's Paving bid amount approved by the Bureau of Budget. On February the 15th, 2023, I sent an email to the Bureau of Roads requesting justification for not selecting the low bidder as the awardee, as this information would be needed for the concurrence letter to be taken before you, the board. On March the 9th, 2023, I received a draft concurrence letter from the Department of Public Works stating concerns with Russell Standard's performance on previous work, justifying why they did not recommend Russell Standard for the award. In review of this information, and as the county's procurement officer, understanding that a responsible bidder is one who has the capability in all respects to perform, let's see, and I just lost my place, fully the contract requirements and the integrity and reliability which shall assure good faith performance. It must be taken into consideration the circumstances of the contractor's failure to perform properly and in a timely manner, and determine whether the same problems reasonably may be expected to similarly affect the contract to be awarded. It was my determination that Russell Standard did not perform as responsible and believe my decision should be upheld. On March the 10th, 2023, the Office of Procurement posted a notice of award, a notice of intent to award to American Paving Incorporated. I received a letter dated March the 15th, 2023 from Russell Standard protesting the notice of intent to award to American Paving. On March the 21st, I received from Doug Brown, the Deputy Director, Public Works, a 2021 gravel road project timeline that Kathy Wirtz, Road Administrative Supervisor, had made outlining Russell Standard's performance during the 2021 project. On March the 23rd, 2023, I emailed a letter to Russell Standard in response to their protest letter. This letter stated the issues that the Bureau of Roads had encountered, and attached with the letter was a project timeline provided by the Department of Public Works, again stating the various issues. The Office of Procurement received from the County Commissioner's Office a letter dated March the 28th, 2023 from Russell Standard appealing the decision. As there was some confusion as to what Russell Standard was requesting, a letter was emailed to Russell Standard on April the 3rd, 2023, requesting a clarification if Russell Standard wanted a meeting with the Bureau of Roads or a formal hearing before the board. Russell Standard replied by email to me on April 4th, 2023, requesting a formal hearing before the Board of Commissioners, which brings us here to today. And I also want to let you know that there is a PowerPoint available with pictures for your review that was made by the Department of Public Works, if you would like to review them.
What's the intent of the PowerPoint?
It shows the condition of the roads. It shows the work that Russell Standard did and the flaws that they encountered, and then it also shows the work that was done by American Paving.
Okay. There's opportunity for questions to Maureen. Okay. We're rifling through a lot of paper. Appreciate the comments you made. Are there any questions directed to Maureen at this time? Any head nods? I got one.
No.
Yeah.
And forgive me if I'm not allowed to ask about this. What was, and again, if that's in the PowerPoint, you can just tell me to look at the PowerPoint. The I guess previous concerns that you had about why Russell would not be the way to go. I mean, is that in the PowerPoint? I mean, what was it that made you say we're not going to go with Russell? I mean, specifically. Or
Russell, do you have this PowerPoint? No, you do not. Okay. Why don't-
I have it. Do you want me to give
You have a copy of it,
I have it.
Roberta?
I can give you my copy if you
Or-
need an extra copy. Mine's in color.
Mine is, here, I got it.
That's right.
You got it? All right. Thanks, Doug.
There you go.
I got it. Do you want two?
Yeah,
Oh,
one side.
Sure, okay.
Give him another one.
and so it's in the power. I'm sorry.
What was concluded is that when Russell Standard did their work in 2021, the roads department, some of their work actually failed, and the roads department had to go back out and correct the failings of those roads. And there was some lateness involved, not following the timeline schedule that roads had put out that was specific in their instructions. So, and yes, there is a letter that states the different complaints that roads department had. I don't have that right in front of me, but I know those were the major concerns, is that they had to go back, spend time and money to correct the failings.
And I guess the contention is that this was not something that occurs naturally. This has to do with the actual work on the road being done. Like, this isn't weathering or natural processes that are impacting the road.
My understanding is that the main complaint was with the actual work itself. I would have to refer to somebody in Public Works for the
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to get technical with you there.
But like I said, I know what it boils down to is that county employees had to fix the errors basically that occurred.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a warranty period in the contracts, and and if so, were they allowed to come back and do repairs? Did they refuse to do repairs, or they weren't asked?
That I will have to turn over to Doug Brown and his staff.
Do we have to formally call Doug up? No? Okay.
No,
This is part of Marie's presentation.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
He swore in.
Just making sure.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So, directly to your question,
Would you state who you are?
Yes, sir. Douglas Brown, Deputy Director, Department of Public Works, Carroll County Government. So, in response to your question, Commissioner, is that we typically, when we deal with these issues that had came up, they are, in this particular situation, particularly with surface hardening of gravel roads, the longer that we wait to do them, the worse the problem becomes. So oftentimes we get the complaint, our crews are out there and deal with them. So short answer is no, they were not contacted. And no, this work typically, and we've done it for years, we currently use the double chip seal and fog seal and have for years over our roads in Carroll County, our asphalt roads, and now the last 3 years on surface hardening to gravel roads, and we have not experienced these issues prior to this.
And the schedule, I know there were pipe replacement, et cetera. The fact that this got so late in the fall, was that their schedule or the county schedule, or both?
So our timeline, the history is the last Board of Commissioners approved within the CIP a 3-year schedule for us to divide the roads and bid it out separately in 3 different occasions. We did so. The bidder that is before you today was successful in the first year. We were at that time asked by the commissioners, had we ever used them? We had not. But we said that, they were the low bidder, we would go with that. Subsequently, from the beginning, what was told to us by the corporation was not done, and from your past experience in road work, early is better. We would have off times where 9:30 a.m. was the start date, starting out of sequence on the agreed to roads. And you have heard us say that we value our customer's opinion. What that means is every customer got a written letter, and that written letter, as part of that, was our schedule for when roads would be done in a certain order. That order was not followed. We made multiple attempts early in the project to correct that. That was still a case. We also had product shortfalls where there was not enough material on behalf of the contractor to do the agreed upon roads that day. The schedule was skipped and moved around. And again, this causes us, quite frankly, and we take it very seriously in the eyes of our customers. They're like, you guys don't even know what you're talking about. You can't run a project. You're not showing up on our roads when you're supposed to, and we have to answer for that.
Doug, keeping it to
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Sorry.
keeping it as standard and the timeline.
Yes, sir.
We're asking certain questions, answering the question.
Yep. Understood.
Got it, but I don't want to unfairly,
No, just trying to.
I just want to make sure that we're not kind of going overboard.
But that is our point to the schedule. So we did our best, but the schedule was not followed, and we attempted to correct.
And you already said they were pre-qualified at the time of the advertising and the bid. Are they currently pre-qualified?
I don't know that there was pre-qualification required. I'm not positive.
On this particular case, the bidders, they are not through the same pre-qualification that we would put an asphalt contractor down. So that answer to that is no. They are not.
So
And that's the same across the board for all, not just for Russell Standard, but for all bidders.
for anybody
Correct.
doing
Yes.
it. Tar
So
and
nothing
chip.
different for them.
Okay.
I think you guys added micro maybe to the pre-qualification list. I'm not sure. That wasn't
We
full.
just did a micro test a little over a year ago.
Yeah, but I didn't think this was part of the little boxes you check.
Correct.
Doug, do you have an estimate about the amount of cost that was entailed to repair the roads in question?
I do not have that in front of me today, sir. No.
Any other questions for Maureen and Doug at this time?
Any other questions of the board? If not, does the contractor have any questions? You'll get a chance to do your presentation next, but do you have any questions based upon what you heard?
Wasn't there
Could you,
extraordinary?
could
I
you,
apologize. Can
I'm
you-
sorry, use the microphone and tell us who you are again.
I'm Todd McConnell with Russell Standard. And I was wondering, wasn't there severe weather during this time frame that we had to work around on this?
So we did account for, and in our timeline, the weather is mentioned, but the weather, and I'm trying to get both between the microphone and here, really was out of pace with the schedule. I think there were some discussions. You were the foreman on the job?
I was not.
I know for factually within the timeline, there were discussions with the foreman, differences in start times, start days, and schedule.
Right.
And that was not directly impacted by the weather. We do actually have factually within our timeline when you were delayed, and the delay was by weather.
Okay.
But that has nothing to do with the other parts of the
Okay,
schedule.
and that was
Yep.
that was the only thing I
Yes,
had
sir.
was
We-
questioned
We
about.
did have that, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from purchasing?
No, just one thing. You had asked about the, what other issues were, what came, I get this out right, what other issues for why we didn't want to award it. And I did put in its Exhibit J in my letter to Russell Standard. It does state that issues were encountered, issues were scheduled, and instructions were not adhered to, routine lateness to job site, shortage of supplies, equipment breakdown, and fog seal not drying properly. So that's how we outlined what the actual issues were.
So Jay was to Mr. Rowe from you? Okay,
Correct.
okay. Okay.
And it does go on to say that while the roads initially looked good, many of them started to fail within the first year, causing the Bureau of Roads to make repairs.
Right. Okay.
Out of curiosity, how long does a road typically last before it needs some kind of significant repair?
So we typically, with this type of preservation technique throughout the county, we can get 5 to 7 years if it is over top of another road, and realistically we should. That is the best bang for the buck. That's quite frankly what our goal is. So we want 5 to 7 years before we have to get in there, barring any unusual circumstance.
And these were failing within the first year, you say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Amy Graylish with Russell Standard. You said you get 5 to 7 years when you're going over another road, correct? But these were going over dirt and gravel.
They were, but we have already had 3 years on our test areas that we began, so we have no reason to believe that our 5 to 7 years at this point won't go. We have had 3, and also in the second year of the contract, it has had well withstand at this point beyond a year and doing good.
Was it all the roads or just like small portions? Because I saw the pictures.
Sure.
And a lot are center line where
So some are center
there's
line.
not a crown, and that's where the water tends to sit.
Sure, center line, sideline, it was varied
Right.
throughout the roads.
Right, and when you do a chip seal, it doesn't change the profile of a road.
Correct.
So if that crown's not correct, a chip seal's not gonna correct it. So if there is guttering, if there's water in the middle,
I understand that, but
is not because of the chip
right.
seal.
Our teams, though, on the other hand, prep all of our roads prior to you and or any other chip seal contractor coming in.
Right.
So we're well aware of that. That is part of our prep where we do pipe work and seal work on the crown. So I totally understand what you're saying. You are not responsible for the grade of the road. We're not saying that at all here. We are responsible for the grade of the road, and you come in and then code beyond that.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay, if you would vacate the seats, we'll hear from Russell.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Good morning to you both.
Just one last time, tell us who both of you are and your positions with the company.
Sure. I'm Amy Graylish. I am Regional Technical Sales for Russell Standard. I've been there 9 years, and my background is civil engineering.
Yeah, I'm Todd McConnell with Russell Standard. I'm a field engineer. I do a lot of other federal work and road work, and I've been doing this for quite a few years. So.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So Russell Standard, this company has been in business since 1949. We've been doing pavement preservation. So we have 74 years experience. And we feel that we did fully perform the contract requirements back in 2021. Now, it was not in a timely manner, but a hurricane had hit. So we were getting the weather from that hurricane. And when they say we didn't follow the schedule, so they had dates in there. So I went to our operations manager, and he also had some notes on the schedule. We got in there on 8:30, so we have to mob there. So the mobilization took 5 hours to get there. So we mobed in, and they gave us the list of roads. We went to the first road, and then they said it wasn't the correct one. So to mobilize equipment again, we are already 5 hours there, we mobilized the equipment. Then to move somewhere else, that's not like a 10-minute process. It's a train of equipment that has to go to the next road. So we didn't get anything done that first day. The second day was 8:31, and we had no problems that day. We did 20,000 square yards of a double seal, which is pretty good production. So a double seal, then you would figure that at 40,000 square yards of a single. So that we were satisfied with that production. On Wednesday, September 1st, we decided with the county that we could not complete the work because they were getting the weather from the hurricane. So that was right before the Labor Day weekend. So from 9/1 and then Labor Day weekend, so we came back on that Tuesday. Tuesday, we were able to get 10,000 square yards double done. Wednesday, 14,000 square yards of a double. Thursday, there was rain, and Friday, we did 26,000 square yards of a double. And I don't know, they're saying we couldn't get the P2 material. I'm not sure. They didn't specify what material it was, but we make the emulsion. So the emulsion that's used on this is the CRS2L. We make that. We have a location here in Maryland. I think we're the only people that have a plant in Maryland that makes this emulsion. So it wasn't the emulsion. I'm not sure what material they were talking about on that. But so then 9/17, Friday was canceled with rain. And that week in between, we didn't have any problems. We were productive every day. 9/20, we did 22,000 square yards of a double. And then we are finished up 9/22. And then we had guys that come and do the fog seal. So that goes, that is applied after a chip seal, and that gives it like that black asphalt color, but it also aids in stone retention on the roads. And we were not made aware that there was anything that went wrong with the fog seal. Somebody said that it got on their car. We were not made aware of that. Had we been, we could have, put a claim in to help him clean it. I've had it on my car a lot of times. I just get like a tar remover from like an auto store. So yeah, we were not made aware of any issues whatsoever on the fog seal. So on the schedule, so they did have a list of roads and the way they wanted them to go. But whenever we got that bad weather from the hurricane, when we got back, they had to change that list of roads because then they had to go and make repairs before we could chip seal. So that was one of the reasons that there was miscommunication between our crews and the county because they kept changing the roads. So we were never, like they would say we were late to a road, but we weren't. We had gone to another road, and then they said, this one's not repaired yet, now you got to mow to another one. So that was the majority of the miscommunication with the road list. It was because that weather made, they had to go back and do repairs on the roads. So I guess what we are looking for is, we did this back in 2021, and we feel like we completed the contract. We were never made aware that there was any issues with any of the roads that we completed. And then we put a bid in last year. We were low, and they did award to American Paving Fabrics, and we just, we respected the county. But this time, the difference is pretty significant. It was like close to $300,000 difference. And, we feel like we make the emulsion, and there's apples to apples, these jobs, they're gonna buy the same emulsion that we're making. I don't know if they buy it from us, if they buy it from somebody else. So that's the same. The stone is just number 7, number 8 stone. And the quality of our work, I had in an email, let me pull it up. So this was from that packet, and it was the summary. This came from the county. It said, I feel the roads that we chip sealed look good considering the amount of delays that occurred due to the contractor, weather, torrential rains, etc. There were a few locations that the contractor needed to repair due to bald spots. The contractor also had fog sealing due to the weather conditions. I personally traveled a few roads during the evening hours, and the fog seal had not hardened, splashing material over my vehicle. Said the roads hardened over time. I have only received good comments regarding the hardening of these roads, and the citizens are very grateful. I would recommend some signs or safe hits of guardrail on some roads. So,
Can you tell the board the date of that and who it was from?
Was it submitted with your paperwork?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull that up for you.
Thank you.
I got that from my boss.
Oh, okay.
I thought I did see.
Did you see that? Okay.
I thought
So
I-
how are we to know that there was any issues whatsoever if nobody is telling us? And, you know, we take pride in our work. We would have come back and repaired anything. You know, if given, we weren't even given a chance to look at it. And then we worry moving forward, you know, if we should just not bid here, you know, and then you're gonna lose that competitive bidding aspect. So I'll find that for you. But that, I think that's what I wanted to cover.
You want to add anything else?
No, I'm fine. I mean, that pretty much covers it. It just, you know, we are a good company, and we do when if something is brought to our attention that we need to fix something, we fix it, and so that's just not giving us the chance to be able to come back and perform if we do have an issue. I don't believe that's fair to our company by not being aware of it and given a chance to fix what that went wrong.
And we do work, so we have Fayetteville office, we're only 45 minutes from here. We have a local crew, we've done work, Adams Township, York, Lancaster. So, I mean, you could call those, you know, if you wanted to get a reference on us. We do work there.
I have a difficult question. Where is Valencia?
Did you ever hear of Mars, PA?
That accent gave you away.
Me? Sorry.
Beautiful
I'm
West-
actually from Pittsburgh.
beautiful
I
Western
have a
Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh accent.
Beautiful Western Pennsylvania.
Yes, I do, yes.
Go ahead.
Seriously? Seriously?
I do, I have Pittsburghese, I'm
Well, no,
sorry.
that I'm not doubting. I'm just curious where my legal attorney or legal advisor was going with this.
I went to Pitt Law School, so I know the accent.
I went to Pitt Engineering School, there you
Oh,
go.
I thought he was going to say you went to Mars.
I have been to Mars.
Sometimes we feel like he should, but it's okay. Go Panthers. Any questions? You done work up in Pennsylvania. You've done work also here in Maryland
Yes, sir.
besides Carroll County?
Yes, sir.
That's more of a question.
Where have we
than
done?
a statement.
Arundel County?
See, it's not my area.
Okay, I know Anne Arundel, or, yeah. But we do work everywhere, so we do work in North Carolina, South Carolina, Ohio, West Virginia, we're everywhere.
Right.
We have 7 crews that do this type of work. And I really feel that what happened in 2021, the majority is because of that weather, because of that hurricane that came through, and just that, like the biggest detriment to any road project is rain or water. You know what I mean? That's like the worst thing that can happen. That's why, like, there are schedule delays, because we have to wait until that roadway is dry. We cannot apply asphalt emulsion to anything wet, or it's not gonna stick. So I do feel that, you know, that was beyond our control. A lot of these delays came because of the weather.
Any questions? You want to ask if Doug or any of them have questions? I mean,
Well, I have one quick question, and I apologize. I'm still trying to find that email, but I know I read something in here somewhere
Yeah,
about
I'll
the
find
fog
it.
seal splashing up on the vehicles. But
Yeah,
so it's
on the last 3
oh,
pages.
I
And
have
we were
those
not
over-
made aware of that
whole
either.
packet, I got them next to me.
Yeah, it's
but
on the last
Right,
3
yeah, we were not made aware of that. I get fog seal on my car all the time. You know what I mean? It's a simple clean. And the problem is, when fog seal, it usually dries very quickly. It's like 20 minutes to dry. Only in areas where there might be shade, you know what I mean? Like if there's some shaded areas of the road, that might take up to an hour.
Right.
It is the emulsion is a slow set emulsion. It's cationic slow set. So that's why we have traffic control at both ends of the road to make sure it's dried. But like the chip seal oil is a quick set, so that's why like you can drive on that right away.
so with
And I read the comment as not so much the damage to the vehicle and get the vehicle clean, because the roads guys are used to that. It was the fact that it still wasn't dry at 8 p.m. several hours later. I think.
Right, but when Nate Waldenville, he was the one who applied it. He said, they waited around, they were for over an hour, and it was, they felt that it was dry. Now, I don't know if it was just like a small section that was in the shade but we wouldn't leave a road that was wet with emulsion.
So you'd mentioned that, if you've been notified, say by, X town or X county about some work that needed to be altered or adjusted or fixed, that you go out to do this.
Absolutely.
And what is the timeline typically for that between notice of an issue and completion of the solution?
Go back. So we have different, I would probably be the first one contacted. So they would send, like our technical sales reps, they would send us out first to go see what we're looking at. Then we, take our notes, give advice on what we think should be done, take it back to operations, and then they set up the schedule to go fix it.
And is there, I know it's difficult because every project varies, but is there a general sense, like do you say, okay, well, we've been notified there's an issue and within 1 week we will have the issue taken care of, or within 3
Right.
days? I mean, is there like a set time?
There's not a set time because it depends on where our crews are. So if we have a crew that's, right there, we'll come right back. You know what I mean? But if we have the nearest crew is 100 miles away, they have to finish that job and then somebody can go.
So
But we also have smaller, repair crews that we can send.
So, I mean,
But this one would have been
depending on the scope, it could
very
be
important to us, right? Because we want to work here, we want to continue work in Maryland. So it would have been of utmost importance to us to get back here,
So it could take some time depending on certain conditions.
depending on what the, right,
Okay,
right.
thank you.
sure.
Did you have any questions, Maureen, or?
I don't really have any questions, but what, I'm sorry.
Amy?
What Amy read is in this packet.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay,
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
And I guess I have a question, if we can ask Doug to come back up for a minute. That's Good morning again.
Good morning. I think
10 minutes.
So with the issues that were arising, was there any kind of notice made regarding the issues? And relating to that, did you feel that there was a necessity of having these issues repaired as soon as humanly possible, which would lead to one of our crews taking care of it versus waiting for the company to come back and do it?
Sure.
And why?
So two-part question. So first part, was the communication done? Obviously, we don't have either the first person, the foreman, or Kathy, our administrative supervisor, is away at a conference this week, actually a snow conference, or she would be here today. But what I can tell you is, and I've discussed this with her, is that she did have these conversations with the foreman, so it was relayed through the on-site person. Now, having read Russell Standard's letter, they said that their management was not aware of it, so that obviously is a disagreement. To the second part of your question, yeah, timeliness is important. We, as was given to you in the example, to wait a week, you would certainly, as a commissioner, question us as to about our timeliness of making any repairs, and we have that same problem. So we can't continue to let those things go on, because just as weather impacts a lot of things we do, weather also makes situations worse often throughout the county. So we would have addressed it immediately.
And is that, and if you can't answer this, that's okay, but is it typical for, somebody to say, hey, there's an issue with this road, and to relay it to the foreman? Or is it typical procedure to channel something up?
So our point of contact by contract in all of our jobs typically is the on-site supervision of the foreman. And then just like with us, we see it as the responsibility of the contractor to communicate with his or her foreman on the job site to make sure they are getting timely reports of what is going on. That's the same that we do with our staff.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Doug?
Yeah, since you're back up here, I wasn't going to, but, and maybe it says it in here, when were the damages and when were the repairs? Do you remember, and for instance, was it in the spring or still in the fall? Do you remember how quickly?
Some of those were immediate, yes, right?
They were immediate.
Right, immediately following in the fall before we got into the wintertime season. I don't have the specific timeline in front of me other than what's
Some
included
of
in
them
the
were
packet.
immediate.
Yes.
That answers my question.
Yep.
The other question, and she mentioned the disparity in the bid totals. The unit prices were within 5% of each other, 5 and less than 4.5.
Mhm.
But the quantities were 53% off, which
Well,
I didn't see where that raised an alarm. I would think it normally would. A, did it, and B, how do they get paid? Does it get measured and paid for by the actual quantity completed, or is what they put in here what they get paid?
so they do get paid as, and again, I will turn back to that, but quantity completed is when you're doing gravel roads, and this is where we get into quality control versus the sides and the centers, there oftentimes isn't an exact endpoint, meaning that the contractors, when they come out or send their expertise, which is their estimator, out, they measure to a point and then complete to that point. We have found that the other contractor, it was a more satisfactory completion. It might have went out a little further into a driveway. It just made it look better for the job, and they are typically paid and billed, and I'm going to turn to Jim on the quantity. On the quantity.
Okay.
Any other questions for Doug? Okay, thanks you, Doug.
Did you have any questions based upon what you heard?
I always missed that part.
Can
So-
I ask one more thing in general? There seem to be two issues in your communication.
Who are you asking? I
Back to the
apologize.
county.
You're asking them?
Well, I don't know. It's, I guess the county. There were two issues within it. One was the protest of this bid, one was in bidding future work. And I guess what we're ruling on today is the protest of the bid.
Right.
If they want to do future work, or the county wants to, that's a whole nother we're not talking about that today, is that correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, then that takes care of my question.
Okay.
It's just
We're
exercise
just
for
getting a
Doug.
little exercise for Mr.
Always
Brown.
needed.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
Thank you for me not asking a question.
So it's open for discussion at this point. Jim, did you want to give us any direction, navigate us to, guidance?
No, I would just say the hearing and the record and the case is now closed. It's up to you now to make your decision. I've given you some consideration points in your materials after the briefing paper.
So
You can
with
either,
regard to the burden of proof and the standard of review, right?
yeah, you can either grant the protest based upon what you've heard, concluding that the award to Russell should have been done in the best interest of the county, or you can uphold the Office of Procurement in their decision in awarding it to American Paving Fabrics. You can reject the two bids and start again.
It bothers me that American Paving isn't even here, showing a lack of interest.
Well, they did phone me yesterday and said, "Do we have to be here?" I said, "No, you don't have to
No,
be
they
here."
don't have to be, but
But they said that the only thing that they would have testified to is, yes, this is our bid, and we have performed work for the county in the past.
well, I mean, it's $700,000, and we just went through a budget process, that we're looking very carefully at dollars. And, so for me, American Paving, although I understand maybe why they chose not to be, doesn't see it, that 771,000 is as much of a, concern to them. So,
Just for a point of clarification, there appears to be a typo in the cover sheet that came along with your packet. It is, I believe the bid was $776,325 from
Okay.
American Paving, not the $771 that.
so, I mean, so right up front, that bothers me. You know, knowing that Russell Standard has been in business since 1949 and has done a lot of work. Now, I don't want us to compare to Pennsylvania roads. That's not a good idea. But I just feel like we have a higher standard in many cases to our road concerns and focus on our roads. You know, I'm of the opinion, I'm not sure why I would not. I understand all the issues that are in here. I won't say not everybody's perfect, but, you know, I'm not sure why I wouldn't step up and support this protest. So, I don't know. I know we expect quality, but it's a lot of money. So that's just my 2 cents. Any 3, 4, and 5 cents?
So I'm actually pretty familiar with a couple of these roads, probably more so than anybody else here, particularly Davis Road. I live in Mount Airy and right off Gillis Falls there. And I'd be lying to you if I told you I was comfortable, you know, sitting in judgment of what we have here. But I think it's important to distinguish the issues. There was the work that was done, and there were some issues that the county had with that work. And I'm sure you can appreciate the fact that the folks that are sitting around you, they are just doing their job. They are the stewards of the county dollars, and if they weren't doing what they were doing, the five of us up here would have issues with it. And having, you know, being somebody who has bid on my share of contracts in a whole different world, I can understand the frustration of possibly being a low bid, not getting the work. You're the high bidder, you don't get the work. And in my experience with that, I would always just hope that I would get some sort of feedback from the customer as to why we didn't get the work. Why did we lose this contract? Why didn't we re-win the contract? And so with that said, I have no doubt in my mind that if Russell Standard's given another opportunity to do work in this county, I have no doubt in my mind that I would just be shocked if we ever had any questions again, because I know I heard you say we want to work here. And I can tell you, as a Carroll County resident, you should want to work here. We got a great county, and it's a great place to come and work and make money and spend money. So with that in mind, I do respect the work that the county staff has put into this, and I share their concerns about the work that was done. And my only concern in denying the protest is that it doesn't hamper or be a detriment to future bidding. And I know that's probably not as easy as it sounds, because we go off of past performance, as we call it in the industry. But I know that we had issues, and I appreciate the work the county staff's done. I would be supporting a move by the county commissioner to deny the protest, but I just feel as though, you know, sometimes things happen. Bad weather, I remember that weather. I can attest to the fact that one of those roads, particularly Davis Road, is tricky, real tricky road. But I respect the work the county staff's done, but just want to have some sort of understanding, I guess, or maybe put my mind at ease that it's not going to be a detriment in the future if they want to come down here and work.
Mr. Brown's indicating he'd like to speak, but I think the record's closed, so I don't think so, right, Tim?
Right.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying, I don't want to let you think I'm sitting here not listening.
Okay.
And this one isn't black and white. there's a lot of gray in this, and I respect everything the county's done. And I don't think this digs me a hole, but I've dug holes before. Both of these companies have worked for me in the past, and both are very reputable and do a good job, and not every job was perfect, and both of them have replaced stuff. So I do feel like both are reputable companies. I don't know what happened with this one job. And I can't get it out of my mind. And like Commissioner Rothstein said, it's also a chunk of money. And like I say, I don't want to think I'm undermining anything that our staff did because you know, they made a decision they had to make and they based it on facts. But I think I would have a hard time denying the protest at this point in time. But you know, and it's and you know, I can't help but look at the dollars too, and that's a fact. And again, I understand what you said about the other contractor, but I would have been here today. I mean, it's for $771,000 contract, and somebody was protesting, I'd have been here.
Yeah.
And that's a factor in my back of my head too. And they had every right not to be, but.
Yeah. I mean, but that's a huge factor to
my
me.
perception.
Well, that's a tough one. I can see both sides of that coin. I mean, on
Oh,
one
I
hand,
know.
they won the contract by showing up. You know, how does that look? On the other hand, the deference seems to be the word of the day.
Deference,
you know,
yeah.
to show up for that level of contract might have been a good idea, but I can really see both sides to not being.
I understand that point. Yeah.
$300,000.
Yeah, you're right.
But
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I was, and I just real quick,
Yeah.
because part of the process, which sometimes I feel forget, is this part of the process, allowing these type of discussions, allowing protests, and getting as much information as possible. So it's not in a way that we're, you know, dissing our staff, but it's, you know, providing the community to say, hey, this is why I want to be considered, and yeah, maybe next time American Paving will recognize if they don't want that extra $300,000 or $776,000, they may participate. But, and I apologize. Go ahead.
No worries at all, Commissioner. So I guess the way that I approach this is, and I certainly understand why we'd be interested in having American Paving here, but they are not the subject of the protest. They're not the subject of the issue at hand. So I guess I'm less inclined to consider that detrimentally to the case that's at hand. So first of all, I'll say that I don't believe that you know, I think Russell Standard is a good company. I you know, I've not heard anything unkind or disreputable about them in the past, so I have no concerns as far as that as far as that regards. But you know, when I ask these questions about, well, you know, how long are some of these roads supposed to last? You say up to 7 years, and these are failing within the first year. And when I look at the number of photographs in here, I mean, it's not just one or two roads where there was an issue that occurred. I mean, there's quite a few number of roads in here where issues have occurred. You know, I respect the fact that maybe the company's management was not made aware of the issue, but that comes down to their foreman that's been contractually obligated to make them aware. That doesn't fall on the county to make them aware. You know, I look at the fact that, you know, they are willing to you know, try to make things right, to make the repairs, but as Commissioner Guerin had, you know, hinted at earlier, and as Doug had mentioned, you know, we are beholden to citizens of this county for timely and effective management, for timely and effective solutions to problems that our citizens do face. And while I certainly understand and respect, because everybody knows I did home improvement and light construction, landscaping in the past, and you may not be able to get back to a job for a couple of days depending on something, but when you have, you know, in some cases hundreds of people using a road on a daily basis, you know, waiting a week or a month or whatever the case may be, it doesn't hold. So again, and that's not to say anything at all whatsoever about the company itself. I have no, you know, compunction about them bidding on something again in the future. But given what we have in front of us, and given the the evidence that we've received and given the testimony that we've received, I am not in favor of granting the protest.
Compunction?
I'm sorry?
Compunction?
I have no concerns, no issues, no reservations, no.
Kidding. Any other comments? Discussion? Well, I'm going to make the motion that the Board of County Commissioners sustain the protest of Russell Standard Corporation and reverse the decision to award the project bid. Wait.
Yeah.
Yes, to American Paving Fabrics.
A second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion?
And
On
restate
this.
your motion?
To reverse the
decision of procurement.
decision. Yes,
And change who's doing the work.
correct. Yep. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing here none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
No.
Okay, 2-3. Thank you.
So does he need to make his motion?
No, I think
You think that cover?
Yes.
it's denied,
He needs to make his motion.
We're doing it.
or.
No, I would say no, you
Done.
denied the protest.
We're done. The vote's
So
finished.
the
Okay.
protest is denied. Okay.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what I do appreciate is we don't take any of this lightly.
No,
And
no,
we have
no,
very
and I appreciate,
conversations.
if we decide to vote on something 5-0, it's gonna scare me a little bit. Because we have some good discussion, and it's not black and white, you know?
Right.
Wanda, why don't you come on up?
So today, when we vote to adjourn, are you going to vote against adjourning?
I'm
just
gonna
for the-
vote against adjourning, just
Don't go there.
to irritate you
That
guys.
means you have to stay here. And don't get to leave.
And then you'll tell me I can stay, right?
Okay, Chris, do we have anybody on?
I do not have anybody on the line.
Okay, thank you. I need a review of the April 13th closed minutes for public safety. Who writes this chicken scratch in the box?
Uh-oh.
Just curious.
Where?
Oh,
We should be thankful it's an attorney, not a
I'm
doctor.
just curious. It's almost as bad as a physician.
So I move we
Poor Tim.
adopt the minutes from the closed public safety session of April 13th.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion, I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
some Catholic school penmanship teacher is rolling over in her grave now, hearing you.
Go in there. I refuse to comment on things like that. Nope, nope, nope. Okay. Monday, April 24th, nothing scheduled. Tuesday, April 25th at 10 a.m. We have one action to release the FY24 proposed budget. On Wednesday, we have the Secretary of Agriculture coming at 8 in the morning up at the Ag Center. Commissioner Gordon, Kyler, and I will be attending. Planning and Zoning Commission that evening, Commissioner Gordon will be participating. At 6:30 that evening, a Veterans Appreciation Dinner hosted by the Lions Club, the Freedom District Lions Club, down in Sykesville. Commissioner Kyler and I will be attending. Commissioner Guerin, please let me know if you want to.
I was forced to RSVP in the negative for that.
Okay.
I can't make it, but I appreciate that
Oh,
very
good.
much.
Okay, that's Wednesday. Thursday, we go into open session at 09. We have a few priority carol activities. Then we go into purchase, install fixed LPR systems from the Sheriff's Department, Public Safety Server Infrastructure Replacement from IT, FY24 Recovery House from DCS, Board of Approval of required CDBG plans from DCS, forwarding a letter regarding a zoning waiver.
I think
For-
that'll come off, right? The
Wait,
board.
did we, oh, we
Did you-
decide, did we decide?
Which way did we go on that? Now
On what issue?
I'm-
On,
on
the
the
annexation.
annexation. Now I'm having a,
Oh, we agreed to it, didn't we?
yeah, I think
We
you
did.
voted
Yeah,
to
we
do it,
did.
so that
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
off.
I apologize.
Yeah, that's a,
So item 5 comes off, thanks.
seems so long ago now.
We did the deference thing.
Yeah.
Okay. A briefing from Economic Development and Land Use Study with Ms. Eisenberg and the team that was put together from John Stover and Associates, I believe. Sun Valley Stormwater Management Facility retrofit. County NPDES program, and our newly issued permit from Mr. Hine.
That's an overview. We're finally.
Yeah, it's an overview. Public comment, okay. Then we will go into close for legal. On Friday, we have dedication to the Tommy Dell Arch over at the Ag Center. Commissioner Kyler and I will be attending. And then the Buck Wild Tractor Pull right afterwards. Commissioner Kyler will be attending, and I may be as well, but we'll figure that one out. Commissioner Vigliotti has the podcast for that Sunday. May 1st, nothing scheduled. Chamber of Commerce breakfast on Tuesday up in Tawnytown, the library, Commissioner Vigliotti. And I'll look at my calendar, but I expect I'll be attending too, to heckle him at least. Or
I hope
throw
you bring
popcorn.
tomatoes.
No, popcorn. Anyway, Wednesday, May 3rd, Board of Education FY24 budget work session at 4 p.m.
Just let us know if any board member wants to attend that.
And then-
Do we typically attend the budget work sessions, or?
Commissioner Kyler may know better. I don't think so.
I don't think we've ever attended.
Okay.
The Board of Education work sessions? I don't think so, so.
Okay.
Well, but we have time to figure it out. But
Okay.
Commissioner Gordon has the planning and zoning, another one in the evening. That's interesting. It's like back to back. I have a feeling one of them's coming off, but. The Sheriff's Prayer Breakfast on Thursday morning. We got Commissioners Gordon, Guerin, Kyler, and myself attending,
I'll be attending as well.
and Vigliotti. So you got the 5 of us. And then we will go into open session upon return from that breakfast. So it may be a few minutes late, but we'll get there. We go into the Board of Health.
So what happens with the administrative session? Just
Won't have it.
We won't have the administrative
Just
session.
won't have it.
Yeah, yeah. We've had enough of our admin. We don't need any more, so. But we will go into the Board of Health, and, yeah, at 9:15. At 10 o'clock, or excuse me, after that, we have the final approval to support Westminster's rescue missions application for FY24 recovery housing grant. Then we will have discussion on rural legacy programs for the Nesbitt property and also the Gasper and Watson property. Talk about a briefing on restaurants in the ag zone. Interesting.
Sometimes I wonder how some of these items get on here. What is the genesis of that?
Two things. One, the concern that there are restaurants operating in our ag zone, and the ag zone currently doesn't allow that. And then secondly, the recent legislation that was passed by the state of Maryland allowing organizations like wineries and others
Right.
to have restaurants. So.
And Commissioner, this is something that, and I will take the blame for this. This is something that I've been pursuing since the beginning of our term in office. So.
I wasn't going to throw you under that bus.
Oh no, that's all right. I threw myself under this one.
This is item 4?
Well, it washes with popcorn.
Correct, it is.
So So we're getting our stuff in line with the state.
Is that a good thing? No, I'm kidding. Okay.
I've asked that question.
Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year. Commissioner Gordon will be attending at 5:15,
I'll be attending that as well.
and Commissioner Guerin. I may be. I gotta check my calendar. So
And I'm,
fun event.
I may be. We got
Yeah.
an invitation both here and at home, and
Right.
the one at home is laying next to my chair. So I think my decision may be made.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Rothstein, isn't there a Maryland Municipal League meeting still happening in Mount Airy at some point, or is that still not?
Say it one more time, Maryland.
The Municipal League?
MML.
MML, I thought there was
Yeah.
gonna be
I
something
think that's
coming up.
I think that's a little later in May. I can double check on
It
that.
is. It is coming up, and it is in Mount Airy. I
Okay.
know that.
Okay, all right.
When, I'm not sure.
Okay,
but
thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Kyler has the podcast, and hopefully everyone will be attending. Commissioner Vigliotti, you're not attending
yeah,
Veterans?
no, I will be there.
What's up with that? You're not on there.
Well, I heard someone might have popcorn.
Okay, we'll all be attending the Veterans Celebration. Did I miss anything, Ms. Wanda? Okay. It is 12:21. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?